Sorry? Oh, okay. Hear me? Can you have somebody say something?
FanDuel's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by WinStar Farm and by Phasic Tipton.
Welcome to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. If you are a fan of horse racing, you should be here.
We've got plenty of Breeders' Cup contenders waiting to go on the track.
We are inside the horse van. These are the filly contingent.
We're so fortunate to see so many of these horses in the Breeders' Cup.
He floats. He's very, very good. He's very light on his feet. Just an outstanding work.
Like the song says, Arabian Nights, like Arabian days, more often than not, hotter than hot in a lot of good ways. Arabian Night preparing for the biggest race of the 2 days of championship racing here at Santa Anita. It will be the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. We will see him out on the track this morning here at Santa Anita. How hot is that early pace going to be in the Classic? Maybe only Arabian Night knows, because he might be controlling it. Stage Raider was bred to be great. After all, his big brother is Justify, a Triple Crown winner, but can Stage Raider justify being in the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile? We'll watch his preparations leading to his championship moment. And then there is White Abarrio. As we approach Halloween, he's the perfect Halloween horse, but will he scare the competition and get into the winner's circle in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic? He's been thriving in the mornings here at Santa Anita. He will also be our focus here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. So the preparations, it's a frenetic pace right now. Welcome to our set just off the paddock here at Santa Anita. I'm Todd Pletcher. Moments ago, all of a sudden I heard, Bro, Todd. It was Patrick Valenzuela. He's out here exercising horses. He's won Breeders' Cup races 7 times. Everywhere you look, there is someone who has a great resume here at the Breeders' Cup. That's why it is our defining championships. And while the pace is picked up as far as the training in the mornings and the preparations, a lot of these connections are thinking about later this afternoon. The post-position draw will take place for all of the Breeders' Cup championship races. Joining me here on our desk, just off the paddock, is Joaquin Jaime. We pulled you out of the field.
Right.
Simon Bray has the morning off. We were talking about Arabian Night at the top. One theme that I've seen in all the interviews that we've been doing, whether it be in Kentucky or here at Santa Anita, these trainers are very confident. You've been with Bob Baffert a lot this week. He seems to have confidence in all his horses.
Yeah, he's bringing in a really tough team to the Breeders' Cup this year, but especially into the Breeders' Cup Classic when you look at Arabian Night. And what's interesting about that confidence is he's bringing in a horse to the Breeders' Cup Classic, the biggest race of his young career, and he's only had four 4 lifetime starts. We've never seen a horse win the Breeders' Cup Classic ever in start number 5.
Speaking of confidence, Michelle Yu always is confident because she's got the skills to pay the bills. She joins us this morning, and I think the breakfast marquee is opening. This is an exciting time for all of us, Michelle.
Yes, Todd, the breakfast marquee is now open. I was surprised I didn't see you there this morning. Already some excitement going on the racetrack. We've seen horses like Master of the Seas just went by me, and Bear Mountain from the Aidan O'Brien contingent was out earlier today. But I'm going to catch you up right now with an update on Go Rocket Ride, which I'm sure is on everybody's minds. He did undergo his arthrodesis surgery yesterday here on the On-Track Clinic at Santa Anita, and he came out of his surgery in the late afternoon. The owners did post a nice tweet about him, about how he was coming through, and of course everyone had well wishes. And since then he has been moved back to the barn of Richard Mandela, and they have asked for some privacy for him and his recovery. So that's why we are over here and not overlooking at him, but we are of course hopeful and optimistic for Go Rocket Ride's recovery.
I'm glad you brought up Pin Oak Stud because they're very active on social media. They were this past summer when he was running in the FanDuel Pacific Classic. They talked about the connection that this horse had with fans. So that's a great way to get updates directly from the owners. Follow Pin Oak Stud on X, formerly known as Twitter. Ushba Tesoro is at the gate, and we were talking about the Japanese runners, Joaquin, caught a couple by surprise when they won at Del Mar. Didn't have a huge presence last year. Ushba Tesoro not going to surprise anyone, but look at
rocking around in the gate right here.
What's going on in the gate right here?
Yeah, he's just getting a gate schooling session. This is from just moments ago here at Santa Anita. So Ushba Tesoro, you can clearly see just rocking around back and forth, just getting used to the assistant starters and the gate crew. I'd imagine maybe they might even pop the front of the stalls open and just let him walk out of there. But at least from the time that I have been here on the backstretch, Todd, I have not seen Ushba Tesoro gate schooling. So maybe that's probably part of the antics here, is just because maybe this is a first for him, at least in the starting gates in the morning here. I had the opportunity to be at the Dubai World Cup when this horse won the World Cup back in March. That was just 2 starts ago, but 7 months ago for him. This was a planned vacation to go ahead and give him the time off from March into September. I know Simon was talking about his comeback effort just the other day when he won in Japan on September 27th. The thing that I can take from his last 2 races is the versatility that he has shown. It was a hot pace that he had in the World Cup. He rallied from really far back. It was a more methodical pace when he won the Nippon TV High Stakes, which was his designated prep race for the Breeders' Cup Classic. He was much closer to the pace. He was covered up down on the rail. But man, you could not draw up a more perfect scenario for him to have a prep race coming into here to the Breeders' Cup Classic.
What's not perfect is what you're watching here. They had him on an inside stall, and now they've tried to move him to an outside stall where it's open, and he is still technically, and I think without a doubt, he is refusing here to move into line. He gets about a quarter of the way in, and then Ushba Tesoro backs out. Now you think about where that starting gate is for the 1.25 miles here at Santa Anita. It's as far as they can go to the top of the stretch, right, and it's close quarters. We've seen in years past, and again, this will be the 11th time that Santa Anita hosts the Breeders' Cup. There are some horses that will melt down because it gets so tight back there. This is one of the more unusual things we have seen this week here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. A horse like Ushba Tesoro, I know it's so different from how they load in Japan, but so is Dubai, and everywhere he's been, and he's been fine. Maybe this is an off morning, but I would say this is something that's a big concern, because if we get to Breeders' Cup Day with the large crowd and those unusual circumstances, the tight quarters for the 1.25 miles, how's he going to act? Now, we do have the rider back up. We'll see if they try and move him forward again, but he would not go in, completely in, with the rider up.
But this is what this is designed to do this morning, right? This is the practice. Yep. This is where you want to work the kinks out, and this is where you want to get that experience and have the bad antics right now and try to get him as used to this process as he can. Clearly, this is not an ideal situation here as well. Also, I've only seen this horse run in person 1 time out of his 30 lifetime starts. Is this something that might be normal for him? I'm not sure. That's something that we would have to follow up and ask the connections. Is this something that maybe he just, anytime he does something new for the first time, is this in character for him? If it is, then maybe it's really not something to worry about. If it's not, then maybe there is a little more significance to this. He does seem, at least at this moment, to start calming down. Wow. And now I jinxed it. Now he's backing out of the starting gate. So yeah, but clearly, Todd, this is why they call it a schooling session. This is why you go and get your reps at the starting gate, introduce them to everything that they're going to be encountering on race day. And you mentioned just how tight those quarters are so he's not in the 1.25 mile chute. This is in the 3/4 chute. Yep. They were going to say run 6 furlongs. That red and white pole right there is where they start a 6 furlong race here at Santa Anita. So yeah, there's much more room, at least in the chute towards the back, if they were going to run 7 furlongs. But it's still the same idea. He's going to be in the starting gate here, and it's going to be the same process. I think one of the more notable high-profile horses that we had scratch in the Breeders' Cup was Quality Road. He was running in the same Breeders' Cup as Zenyatta and Quality Road. He absolutely lost it behind the starting gate.
Well, and a lot of people said there was a helicopter overhead that distracted him. Obviously, it's much more calm, clear morning here. It seems to be getting a little bit better for Ushba Tesoro. Again, you're watching live Ushba Tesoro here at the starting gate. We're just a little behind real time here. And Ushba Tesoro, I think they're going to maybe be done with this schooling session, but they might make another run at it. He did go, again, with the help of the assistant starters through the starting stall there a couple of times, but they haven't locked up the starting gate in front of him and then kind of let him walk out that way. But they may try it again one more time here, and it's just, as you said, might be one of those mornings, but it is something to note for one of the main contenders here in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, because like we said, these are ideal circumstances for the starting gate. Now imagine the pressure of the Breeders' Cup Classic in a totally different location for the starting gate, going 1.25 miles.
And 8, 9, 10 other horses that are going to be surrounding him at this particular moment as well on Breeders' Cup Saturday. I do remember arriving in Dubai earlier in the week, and he did seem like he was a little on his toes, maybe not incredibly nervous, but he was dancing around. But he was nervous in the early portion of that week as he was training in Dubai for the World Cup in late March. He settled down as the week progressed, and it looks like maybe they're just going to let him circle a little bit, catch his breath, give him a beat, give him a moment, and maybe we'll try to do this one more time. You could see the rider. He is talking to Kate Hunter, the woman in the jacket who's sort of pointing to her left right there. She is overseeing all the Japanese contingent here, and she is really an instrumental part to this team of not only the translation part from the Japanese team to the American team over here, but just everything that they are doing in the morning. She's overseeing this entire operation. I believe it's a team of 9 from Japan that has come this year. But you could see Kate, she was just having some communication with the rider right here. And I think at this moment, Todd, this is what we're seeing of, let's go ahead and just give him a beat, back him out. Looks like they're maybe saying, let's go over here and walk him around a little bit. But he seems to be at least more settled here at the moment as they've gotten him away from the starting gate.
Well, that's one thing I've noticed. Everyone involved, obviously from his camp that you see at the starting gate, and you pointed out Kate Hunter, and the assistant starters, no one has shown that body language that he's showing. Like everyone's remained calm around him, as they say. The troops don't panic if the general doesn't panic. And we are waiting for Ushba Tesoro to finish up this schooling session. But this is a big story here already early on in our show on this Monday on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Ushba Tesoro, it really has been a perfect week. His schooling sessions out here in the paddock have gone great. His workouts have been phenomenal, but that was very odd at the starting gate. If there's more about Ushba Tesoro, we will let you know. But we have a full team here bringing you all the very latest. We mentioned Michelle Yu on the backside here at Santa Anita. And Andy Biancone is on horseback to take us up close with a number of the contenders. And this is my favorite moment when I get to introduce this guy, Rishi Prasad, known all around the world in many sports, but in the world of thoroughbred racing, he is truly one of the best that there is. Welcome to Breeders' Cup 2023, Rishi.
Todd, you are so kind. Thank you so much. It is an absolute joy to be back here at Santa Anita. It's the first time I'm back at Santa Anita since 2003, when High Chaparral was one of the European winners. I'm just standing outside the quarantine barn here, just getting a little flavour. A few of the horses popping in and out. Masters of the Seas just came back in. He runs, of course, for Charlie Appleby in the Breeders' Cup Mile. Charlie Appleby trying to hold on to the title that he won with Modern Games last year. Whether Master of the Seas is up to that class, we'll find out a little bit more about it later in the week. I cannot tell you how excited I am about the European Challenge this year. I think we can do very well, particularly in the turf races, as is tradition, of course, with the likes of Auguste Rodin, King of Steel, and Mostadaf. And of course, there's Saïd bin Suroor with Mogge running in the mile. Saïd bin Suroor, who had such a glittering career for such a long time, so many good horses. He's won British Cup races with the likes of Delamy and Fantastic Light, but it's been a while since he's had a serious contender for the British Cup. So I'm looking forward to catching up with him a little bit later on in the week. A few more of the horses are just spinning around. And I just saw the connections of Living the Dream, who is trained in Epsom, and that's very close to where I live back home. So I'm really hoping that that horse continues to live the dream for the connections this week when he runs in the British Cup Turf Sprint. Very excited about catching up with them and others. So I'll bring you whatever news I can from down by the quarantine barn. But in the meantime, it's over to Michelle.
Thanks so much, Rishi. While you're at the quarantine barn, I will try and cover the rest of the backside over here. We're going to be visiting a lot of barns today, talking to exercise riders and getting to know some more horses. So if there's someone that you want to see, shoot us a tweet so we can go and find that particular horse and maybe give him a little boop on the nose. Also, later on today, we are going to be able to go inside the clinic here on the backside, and Dr. Ryan Carpenter is even going to take us through some of the procedures that we get to do back here. So I think that's really cool. We'll get a little bit of an inside look into some of the vet work. Other horses that we've seen already this morning, the Chad Brown contingent out on the track. As I've been standing here, we've had about 4 of them pass by me. Goodnight Olive, the champion, Zandon, who will be a classic contender, all have been walking by. So we'll, I'm sure, catch up with Chad Brown in a little bit as well, Andy.
Michelle, thank you so much. We've got Rishi by the quarantine barn, Michelle all throughout the backside, and we're going to have all the coverage on the track with Mr. Dill Pickle here. We're scheduled to, there's a bit of a pony shortage actually around here. Ponies are spread thin, so me and Dylan are going to jump in today and tomorrow ponying some of the European contenders that will be competing at this weekend's Breeders' Cup. So very excited. We're going to get you guys up close with all these contenders. Obviously, Michelle just said the whole Chad Brown contingency passed by. They looked excellent. Zandon was one of the horses who went by, and wow, that horse looks fantastic. We also saw White Abario come off the track, jog by the vet. He looked fantastic, was just floating on air. So super exciting morning. Obviously, in terms of horses, this is kind of the more chill day. We've had many of the Breeders' Cup contenders put in their final workouts over the weekend. So right now it's just keeping them fresh and happy. And we look forward to seeing all these things close up, Todd and Joaquin.
Andy, thank you. And if you were with us yesterday, Andy actually ponied a horse to their workout. So we're really taking you right onto the track and into the action. Archangelo has looked fantastic, and he's been here for coming up on a month now. As you look at Archangelo, there's no doubt he's the leader of the 3-year-old division. We got the news yesterday that Kentucky Derby winner Mage is not going to go in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Archangelo's got to be one of the top 3 betting choices for the big race, right?
Oh, I would absolutely think so. I think he might even be vying for favoritism when it's all said and done with Arabian Knight. He won the Belmont Stakes. He won the Travers Stakes. So really, I mean, Horse of the Year is on the line when a horse in their 3-year-old season can put the Belmont, the Travers, and then followed up with the Breeders' Cup Classic victory. But on our show yesterday, Todd, I think one of the notable absences missing from the racetrack was Archangelo. Jenna Antonucci said to the Breeders' Cup Notes team that on Saturday, she pulled a left hind shoe off of Archangelo, and she said that she really didn't know if he by chance maybe kicked a wall in his stall, or he bruised it, or he just hit it. She didn't know. So they pulled his left hind shoe off on Saturday. She wanted to be very cautious and not send him to the track on Sunday for a routine gallop. That's why he was not on the racetrack yesterday. So she just said, we're going to assess it as we continue to progress. He may gallop today. He may walk today. She said it's a very fluid situation. But she said there is a decent amount of time. And one thing for Jenna Antonucci and her schedule, at least specifically to this horse right here in Archangelo and the son of Arrogate, is he's on a 10-day breeze pattern. So he has a stiff workout every 10 days for him. That is something that is normal for him. Other horses, 6, 7, 8 days, I guess, would fall into the normal routine work schedule. But at least for Archangelo, he's on a 10-day work schedule. But that is the reason that we did not see the Belmont Stakes winner and the Travers winner, at least on the racetrack yesterday here at Santa Anita.
Okay, that is a story that we're going to continue to follow. Archangelo, one of the favorites for the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, with a slight hiccup to overcome with just days to go until the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Once again, Rishi.
Yes, and alongside me is Les Reynolds, someone who has a lot of experience of Santa Anita, now with the Simon and Ed Crisford team, but of course you also were with John Gosden back in the day. You've done a bit of travelling in your time over to California.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. I've had some great trips, obviously. I think this is about my 6th, 7th time here in Santa Anita. Obviously, Ravens Pass, Donativum, and I came with a Fugue a couple of times. Yeah, I've been very, very lucky here. So, yeah, I mean, I've been around some great horses. So, yeah. And with Simon and Ed as well. We came here, obviously, with Ayali and, yeah, so, yeah.
Well, it bodes well, then, when you are here with connections. Simon and Ed have got 2 very good horses lining up. Algiers in the Dirt Mile and Carla's Way, who lines up in the Fillies Juvenile Turf. Algiers, first of all, who ran a mighty race in the Dubai World Cup. How's he travelled over? Is the mile the right race for him?
He's a seasoned pro. I mean, it's been brilliant because they both travelled together. So basically, he's the best traveller, which is such an advantage.
That helps her?
Absolutely, because it's her first time away. She's always travelled well in England, but for a big trip like this, it's been great for her because, you know, he's like her sort of looking after her, you know. But they travelled in brilliantly. I couldn't be happier with them. It was a long haul. They had to go from Stansted and obviously to Shannon, put the O'Brien horses on, you know, and the rest of the Irish runners. So, you know, it was a long haul. Basically, door to door, they were nearly travelling 24 hours. But so you need a good mind and a horse that travels well, you know, that drinks well, gets the fluids back in. So, yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I got to the aircraft, went up, Brian Taylor, LG Shipping, and all the rest of the guys, and our grooms, you know, from Jana, they were all there on the flight. So they look after your horse, and they're brilliant. They're great horsemen. They know, you know, they do the same job as I would do if I was travelling. So that's peace of mind. But I couldn't have been happier with them. I mean, they were both stood up sides, hadn't turned a hair, ate, drank well. You know, their levels were good. Obviously, yesterday they were tired. Because we got here, by the time we left them alone, it was like sort of 2:30 a.m. in the morning. So then we had to come in and do temperatures. But I'm so far so good. You know, at this stage, I know it's very early, but I'm very, very happy with them. So yeah, Algiers, like you say, after asking about him, he's just a dude to be around. He's like your best mate. He's just so cool. Yeah, I mean, he ran massive for us in Dubai. Obviously won 2 Maktoum challenges. Stepped up, obviously the trip. I think he travelled so well in that race, but the fractions were so hard. I think the sort of general understanding from the lads, you know, is come back to a mark because he covers all the angles. He jumps very well. He always has done. He jumps well, which you need to do obviously on the dirt. And he holds his posse. And he was wide in a couple of races, so it's not like he needs to race sort of in. You know, he doesn't need cover. He's very versatile like that. But obviously, we went to New York to plan to run in the Woodward. It was biblical rain, so the guys Simon and Ed came up with another plan, obviously with the owners. So we shipped to Woodbine. It was to Peter. You know, he's obviously fine. He's run at Lingfield and everything, so we weren't worried about the surface. It was just better than the slop. In New York, because obviously, as you know, the more sloppy it is, it's like fast ground for us, which, you know, he's a bigger horse like that, you know, he's to be hitting the ground that hard. So the guys just thought, look, let's go for a prep run to Peter, which we did. Rab Havlin came out. The race panned out. They looked like they were going to go 1 million. Then they've pulled them up. He's on the inside, and as you know here, there was nothing, you know, he could do about it. But then the fractions, they were doing 48 and change for 4/8. You know, I mean, it's very slow. It's like a half speed really for us. So turned in, and it just ran out of line. He ran well, and he ran through the line. So we were very happy with the fitness levels. He came back, and he was excellent out the race. So that was the main aim. So we shipped home. He's come back. The guys, you know, everybody's happy with both of the horses. They've been Excellent.
Well,
So
fingers crossed for him. As you say, he's the seasoned pro. Carla's way is obviously very different in the fact that she's really blossomed. Obviously, she won first time up at Doncaster, I think it was, and she looked very good. She was perhaps a little bit keen, but when she won the Rockfell, you know, it was finally sort of the final. It was almost as if this is what we all thought she could do.
yeah, I mean, I was in, myself and Seamus O'Gorman we were away, but we were watching. But no, it's always been, I think that's a perfect run. I mean, they made plenty of use of the Golston horse. Obviously, the fractions were very quick. Kieran went forward, and it couldn't have played better for us. And the Doyler got us settled. She's got a high cruising speed. But she just, the idea...
Showed that from day one.
Absolutely. Jack, when he rode her first time, I always remember James saying, you know, from her work, when she's in behind a horse, she was perfect, settled. As soon as you pulled her out, boom, you pick them up. But the thing was, at Doncaster, she jumped so well. She had a soft lead, so she got, you know, they left her alone. Then at Ascot, I think the trouble was she was going to jump and try and drop in, but she dropped in, but she didn't have the cover. So it wasn't ideal. Anyway, she came back. She ran massive at Goodwood on that ground. And then, yeah. And I think if the ground had been better, I think she probably, you know, for me, she did nothing wrong. So we were very, very happy with the run. And then obviously she went to the Rockfell and put in a massive, well, you know, the fractions were great. And she's, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we've always loved her. And she's got, for a chestnut filly of 2 years old, she has a great mind. She has an on-off switch, but her temperament is brilliant. So, you know, ideally, just, you know, we're going to keep it simple. They're going to go out, she's going to have a pony, because more often than not, I know John always said to me, you know, if you get a pony, you don't necessarily have to hook up. But Donna Tiven was very jig-joggy, loved the pony and took to it. So I've sort of always gone a bit with that, you know. So we try and cover the bases, really.
Well, so you've covered just about every basis with both horses. Les, it's great to catch up with you. Enjoy the week. It's great to be back with an old friend here down by the quarantine barn. And the omens are positive. When Les is in town, he's involved with winners.
And obviously taking us through their game plans and how the horses arrived. But Carla's Way, the last horse that he was talking about, will be in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies on the Turf. We showed you that effort in the Rockfell Stakes last time out. Great insight there. Thank you very much, Rishi, and thank you to Les Reynolds. That was outstanding. Let's get to Zandon, out on the racetrack. The other Z, Zandon for trainer Chad Brown. Been one of those horses that he's brilliant at times, right, and then it's kind of mystifying the races he turns in. He's
a Grade 1 winner. He won the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes during his 3-year-old season. He has not won at a mile and a quarter, but he hasn't tried it very often in his 13-race career. He only has 2 races at the 10 furlongs. Remember, he was 3rd in the Kentucky Derby behind Rich Strike and Epicenter back in 2022. His last race at the mile and a quarter distance was when he was behind Epicenter and Cyberknife in the Travers Stakes back in the summer of 2022 at Saratoga. I remember they decided at one point after he ran in the Pennsylvania Derby to close out his 3-year-old season, he was 2nd behind Taba. They really didn't put the Breeders' Cup on the table at that point. They decided to skip the Breeders' Cup last year. The decision last year is they were either going to put him away for the season or they were going to go ahead and look at the Grade 1 Cigar Mile. Ultimately, they decided to go ahead, skip the Breeders' Cup, have one more run, put him in the Cigar Mile, shorten him up to 1 turn, and he finished 4th that day. Since his 4 races this year, Todd, you've seen him progressively get better and better. He comes off a victory in the Grade 2 Woodward in his most recent start. And the thing about the Woodward is that is his first victory since the Bluegrass Stakes during his 3-year-old season.
Zandon, a son of Upstart, out of the Creative Cause mare Memories Prevail, and is a testament to the wonderful legacy of Brereton Jones, whom we lost this year. What a tribute if Zandon could go on and win the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic this year. We'll be back with more Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup right after this.
You think life is short? Football is short. The regular season's just 18 weeks. That's it. So cherish every over and under before it's over on FanDuel, with live betting on every NFL game. Because before you know it, a cold night at a Buffalo Bills game will just be a cold night in Buffalo.
Bet $5, get $150 bonus if your team wins, plus a profit boost every single day. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
FanDuel Casino has your chance at the #1 feeling, winning, which ranks even higher than the 18th best feeling, saving a kid from a well. 59 years later. Find the #1 feeling winning on FanDuel Casino Reward Machine. Free to play every day with a chance at a $2,000 top prize.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile. She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger.
Snake next spear and Sheen Murphy get through and have won.
It's getting really tight. The star of the season, Roaring Lion.
The purple cap. Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. The other midline. Mongosteen has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
It is going to be Caravelle to win the turf sprint.
2010 will forever be remembered as the Breeders' Cup where the great Zenyatta tasted her only defeat. But there was a race earlier on that day that deserves to be so much more than a footnote, however dramatic the conclusion of that extraordinary evening under the lights at Churchill Downs. And that was because the wonderful French mare, Goldikova, made it a three-piece in the Breeders' Cup Mile. For me, the mile is the most difficult race to win from a tactical standpoint. You need everything to slot just right for you, or you need to be an exceptional talent, an exceptional athlete. Goldikova was just that. She won 14 Group or Grade 1 races, a modern-day record.
And away they go to another perfect start. Goldikova not quick into stride, though. She's dropping in mid-pack.
She wasn't any better the time she rocked up for her third victory, but she had to show great versatility because she was trapped wide early in the race. She got no cover, the kind of cover you need in a mile race. She was maybe 4, 5, 6 deep going into the first bend, but fortunately the pace picked up a little bit, and then she was able to sit and bide her time. And when she hit the lane, she still had length to make up. And Pellier was barely moving. He just nudged the reins at her, and off she took.
But Goldikova's catching with each and every stride. Are we to see history this afternoon? Here's Bucko Boy late, but no, Goldikova, a true champion. 3 Breeders' Cup wins.
She was very special. She was ideally made for the demands of the race. She ought never to be forgotten. And in a year where we thought the real queen would be Zenyatta, in fact, it proved to be Goldikova.
What great insight from Nick Luck, as usual. And that was something that I forgot because I was so sad about Zenyatta. You do overlook what was a remarkable performance by Goldikova on the same card.
And when you think of multiple winners of the Breeders' Cup Mile, you have to be a really special horse to do that with the top milers that we have here. But of course, all the other top European milers that are going to come and fly overseas and run in that particular race. Miesk would certainly come to mind, lure Goldikova multiple times. Freddie Head tied in to 2 of them because he was the regular rider of Miesk before he would go on to train Goldikova.
The Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, going to mix some of America's best with Europe's best. But we do have a horse that will be making his second start here in the United States this year. That is Live in the Dream. If you were with us on FanDuel TV, you watched his U.S. debut back on October 7th at Keeneland, right? Woodford. I was there, and he shocked me with how fast he went. He had one of the fastest opening quarter miles I've ever seen in a 5.5 furlong turf race at Keeneland. He went 20-4. He got to the half in 43-3 at the top of the stretch after going 5 furlongs in 55-2. He was up by 2. Ultimately, he finished 4th, but I did not expect a European to show the type of pace that Live in the Dream did. We're looking at him right now live on the Santa Anita turf course.
You never know what the I should say how the European speed is going to translate to American speed, because when you go back and watch the film and you watch some of his races, or just read the comments in the forum in the past performances, you see the lead, up on the lead, made all. You just don't know how that pace is going to translate to the American racing over here. He's just as fast, if not faster, than any of the American turf sprinters, and we saw that in one race at Keeneland.
Rishi, I have so many questions because this horse really surprised me with the way he ran in the Woodford, that he was that fast. One, did you know he would be that fast? Two, do you think that race will ultimately be a huge benefit for him coming back to the 5 furlongs here at Santa Anita?
Yes, I knew he was fast, Todd. I didn't know he was as fast as he was when he won the Nunthorpe at York. I must admit, he caught me and a lot of people by surprise. He was huge odds that day. And I also think, answering your second question, that he will definitely step forward from that run at Keeneland. 5.5 furlongs, dropping back to the raw 5, a quicker 5 here at Santa Anita. It is right up his street. The one thing that he did, which was really important, and I remember speaking to Scott Hazelton before this race, at the race at Keeneland, I was concerned that, yes, his fast gate speed by European and British standards was very good, but by American standards, it's possibly just on par. But I loved what he did from the gates at Keeneland. He got out and he got a good position and he showed that pace, and it lasted a long time. A little bit better rating, hopefully, fingers crossed, a decent draw, and I think Living the Dream has got a huge chance in that race. Of course, there are other serious contenders. Obviously, a horse like Bradsell, for example, who was so good at Royal Ascot, and he's a horse that perhaps just went the wrong way last time, but I think he's been freshened up. He might have a good chance, but I think Living the Dream would be the top European hope for that race. I love what he did in Keeneland, and I think that's just set him up beautifully for this Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint here at Santa Anita.
I didn't need a big push, and that was enough for me. Rishi's comments on Living the Dream. And a prime example, as Rishi mentioned, an upset winner of the Nunthorpe at 28-1. A horse that's getting good at the right time. You can have a mediocre summer, but as you get to fall, you start to put it together. And now here he is, Living the Dream, a serious contender for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint.
I wonder if there's I think there was a lot of racing fans that wanted to see the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint go down the hill and be 6.5 furlongs. Maybe a lot of handicappers and gamblers the same way. You know who wanted the Turf Sprint at 5 furlongs? These connections right here. This plays right into his wheelhouse for the Irish bred in Living the Dream, cutting back to 5.
Now let's take a look at Songline when we talk about Japanese hopes at the Breeders' Cup. Songline has drawn a lot of attention.
I mean, she's one of the top horses in Japan that they have right now for this 5-year-old mare that you were looking at. She's had 16 lifetime runs, 7 victories. She's been lightly raced and lightly campaigned over her last couple seasons. In 2022, she only had 4 races. She won 2 starts. So far this year, she's had 4 races. She's won 2 starts. She's one of the best milers that they have in Japan right now for Songline. You're taking a look at. She won the Group 1 Victoria Mile. She had to fight it out down the stretch. She won by a head. She followed that up with a victory in the early part of June. And a big field of 18 you've covered Japanese racing for years, Todd. Their Group 1 races, for the most part, they're not like anywhere in the world. You get fields of 5, 6, and 7 in grade 1s or Group 1s. There are always 16, 17, 18 horses at the Group 1 level in Japan.
And look, the defining race at a mile on the grass on the Japanese racing calendar is the Yasuda Kinen. Right. She beat 17 rivals there, and she beat them with devastating ease. This is her distance, a mile. Last time out at about 1.1 miles, she got caught as the favorite in a Group 2 at Tokyo Racecourse. But if she brings the Yasuda Kinen, and especially with, you look at some of the defections that have happened this race, Aidan O'Brien didn't bring Paddington over, and as we said, maybe even with Charlie Appleby, not a lot of depth in some of this field. So Songline is going to be one of your favorites, and deservedly so. She has looked fantastic out here at Santa Anita. And you know, one thing about this turf course, as you watch it, if someone didn't tell you, you would think you were looking at Keeneland Racecourse. You got the frost out there. This is the effect of sitting in the shadow of the mountains. It's such It's so different here during the afternoon. You know, the area gets kind of baked and it gets very warm, but in the mornings, this is almost being like back out east. It's very cool here this morning, but especially in the shadow of the mountains. But Songline, a picture out here preparing for the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile presented by the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund. Let's check in with Michelle Yu.
Well, Todd, you never know who you'll just randomly bump into. And for me, it was Chad Brown. How did I ever find you?
Oh, hi. You're looking for me? I'm here.
I actually walked right up to his barn and he was here. Miracles never cease. How's your morning?
Everything's going pretty good so far. We're just getting the horses jogged over the track for the first time. Everything's going pretty good.
You told me I have to surprise you with questions. So what's your coffee order?
Shoot.
What's your coffee order?
Black, 1 Splenda. Go.
What'd you eat for breakfast at the breakfast market?
0, I don't like breakfast.
How far away did you stay from the track?
About 2 miles.
How many jackets did you bring on this trip?
2.
Do you think you need another one?
Yes.
Did you bring any hats for our crew?
No. Bring any for me.
I have one for you. Yeah, you.
It's a two-way street with all the merch.
I will. I'll make sure that you get one. How about that?
Okay, that's a deal.
What's your favorite day of the week at Breeders' Cup Week?
My favorite day of the week is on Friday morning because everything gets real quiet. All your work's done. It's pretty much out of your hands at that point, and then it just comes down to just last-minute handicapping. You know?
Oh, are you want to handicap some?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. These are full fields, and there's a lot of moves and a lot of plans A, B, and C, and sometimes there's D. So we just roll with it, and sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. But I like when all the work's done and you can kind of take a deep breath and just get the horse over the paddock.
Are you dressing up for Halloween?
This is my outfit, actually.
Are you a horse trainer?
Around. I put all so everyone knew who I was. You know, that's it. That's the only thing I know how to be.
To be fair, there's a guy saddling it right now. I thought it was you. I literally stopped and backed up. So I think he might be Chad Brown for Halloween.
Or CB imposters around here just to throw everybody off so they know where I'm at.
All right, let's talk about your horses real quick. Zandon and Goodnight Olive, at least. We saw them on the track this morning. How'd they go?
Yeah, good. Again, they all just worked a couple days ago, so everyone's just jogging this morning. They'll pick it up and start galloping next couple days. And I was really happy with how they came out of their works. Everyone seems to be moving fine. That's all we're looking for.
Is Zandon the underrated horse in the Classic?
You know, maybe, but I think everyone respects the fact he's coming off a win and he's coming in the race the right way, and the Classic keeps changing a little bit, and he's still in there. So who knows? And excited to have Frankie Dettori riding the horse, which is, I think, going to be a huge plus for this horse, just to have somebody that's so experienced working out, potentially a tricky trip with an off-the-pace horse, and he's one of the best I've ever seen, so I'm happy to have him.
What about Goodnight Olive and the progression she showed this year?
You know what? She's just such a consistent horse for us, obviously a defending champ. I'd love to see her go out and with back-to-back Breeders' Cups.
All right, well, I appreciate the time. And tomorrow when I come, one coffee, black coffee, one Splenda.
I'll be back what time, just to make sure that I'm not here. No,
what time are you going to be here? And I'll make sure to work around.
Oh, I'll be around. Just make sure it's the right Chad Brown you find.
I'll be looking for him, guys.
Having some fun. I love those rapid fire questions. Thank you, Chad Brown. How busy? We've seen some schooling sessions really consistently, but this has been very busy here behind us in the paddock. So we'll get into the schooling action. But a reminder, it is a long day here today, very important day. We're going to have these workouts, obviously, on breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. But join us later today. This will be at 4:30 local time, on-site coverage from the Pasadena Civic Center of the Breeders' Cup draw. All the championship races are going to be drawn. We'll set up the draw. You'll watch it live. We'll come back with reaction. Team coverage. Mike Joyce will be at the Pasadena Civic Center, and Andy Biancone will be with me and Simon Bray. And speaking of Simon Bray, he'll join us when we return on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup right after this.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one also runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, our best-selling big fan hands down. BigFans.com. Comfort without compromise.
Welcome back to the Sportsbook Draft, where FanDuel's pick is in.
With the first pick in the 2023 Sportsbook Draft, FanDuel selects horse racing.
Brilliant pick, as FanDuel becomes the first and only sportsbook app where you can bet on horse racing. Just a savvy move by a savvy franchise.
New customers get a no-sweat bet on the Breeders' Cup up to $200.
It's like they know each other. What do you think Rob's saying to him right now? Probably something about oats.
Looking to give your handicapping game a sharper focus? RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. Customized PPs, summary and individual research, handicapping angles and backtesting, true odds predictive analysis, and pace projection. With innovative analytics powered by data from Equibase, it will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level. RaceLens, bringing clarity to handicapping. Learn more at equibase.com/racelens.
40 years ago, we were founded for thoroughbred racing. For 40 years, we've set the stage for the world to come and race. We've dedicated our lives to our sport, to witness the unforgettable, to reach the mountaintop, to win a championship that defines a legacy. Our love, our dedication, our passion, it runs deep.
A beautiful individual, extremely athletic, displayed a tremendous amount of talent with his win in the Vanderbilt, as well as a couple of his wins at Churchill Downs. Ran unbelievably fast. Very special family to me.
Just a gorgeous horse and throwing very athletic horses that I think will run.
Perfect sire for the 2-year-old sales. I plan on breeding to him next year. I think he's a great play right now.
I'm Greg, I'm 68 years old. I do motivational speaking in addition to the substitute teaching. I honestly feel that that's my calling, to give back to younger people. I think most adults will start realizing that they don't recall things as quickly as they used to, or they don't remember things as vividly as they once did. I've been taking Prevagen for about 3 years now. People say to me periodically, man, you got a memory like an elephant. It's really, really helped me tremendously.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
FanDuel's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by WinStar Farm and by Phasic Tipton.
Soupy Alphabet Soup, one of the most underrated winners of the Breeders' Cup Classic. Think about the stage in 1996. For the first time, the Breeders' Cup was run outside of the United States, going to Woodbine in Canada. And coming into 1996, the Breeders' Cup Classic had one of the most popular horses of the time, Cigar. In late 1994 through the summer of 1996, he didn't lose. He had a crushing defeat after 16 straight wins in the TVG Pacific Classic, but he still reigned supreme at the top of the handicap division, and he was the favorite coming into the 1996 Breeders' Cup Classic.
And they're off. Cigar breaks alertly right there in mid-pack. Alphabet Soup, the gray, is there on the outside. Tamayaz is showing some speed.
Alphabet Soup breaking from post position 12 under Chris McCarron. And early on in the race, it was apparent there was going to be a very fast pace. Atticus went out to the lead with Corey Nakatani and setting up in a perfect position, Chris McCarron and Alphabet Soup sitting in third the whole way around. But as they came around the far turn, Cigar got out from behind horses. He wheeled to the outside. Who was immediately to his inside? It was Alphabet Soup, and the race was on. Even the Canadian hope, Mount Sassafras at 100-1, was hanging around. And then there was Louis Couture's, the Preakness winner from that year, with Pat Day. You had Pat Day, Chris McCarron, and Jerry Bailey all battling it out down the stretch in an amazing Breeders' Cup Classic.
Mount Sassafras clinging desperately to the lead. Alphabet Soup in with an upset chance. Cigar, the heart of it champion, trying to get him. It's Alphabet Soup. Cigar on the outside. Louis Couture's Alphabet Soup has scored a shocking upset.
Amazingly, it would be the final race that Alphabet Soup would ever win. But what a way to get the only Grade 1 winner of your career and one of the best finishes in the 1996 Breeders' Cup Classic. Alphabet Soup. I love the Breeders' Cup. You know I love horse racing. And if you are a fan at any level of sport, you need to come and witness a Breeders' Cup for yourself. We've told you about tickets, but reliving that moment and to think that it was 27 years ago now is rather remarkable. The 40th edition of the Breeders' Cup coming up here at Santa Anita this week, this Friday and this Saturday. Joining me on the set now is Simon Bray. Simon, unfortunately, you were part of Team Cigar.
Yeah.
Did that defeat surprise you? Because as a handicapper, I felt coming into that Breeders' Cup, Cigar wasn't the same horse. What was the feeling from your team?
Yeah, probably. We thought he probably wasn't his A+ game, but maybe his B+ could get the job done. You know, it was very cold up there. He had a very aggressive gallop a couple of days before that race as well. Might have taken a little bit of the starch out of him, but you're right. The last couple of races, he probably wasn't the Cigar that we come to know the year prior.
It looks like we might have an alphabet soup type year because
Yes.
it looks to be a wide open Breeders' Cup Classic.
No question about it. There's no marquee horse this year. You get those years, ebbs and flows. You get a Cigar, you get a Flight Line. But we don't have that this year. So somebody looking to make a name for themselves, and Archangelo will be at the top of that list, heading the 3-year-olds in that division.
Yeah, so we have Ushba Tesoro and Archangelo, two of the favorites. With some minor issues, we saw the schooling session at the starting gate for Ushba Tesoro. We heard from Joaquin Jaime about Archangelo and what they're dealing with. Let's check in once again with Michelle Yu.
Well, Todd, following the saga of Go Rocket Ride, Pinhook Stud has actually posted on their X that Rocket is having an unexpected response to the surgery and isn't recovering as they hoped. He appears to be in no pain and is eating. Our boy is still fighting hard, so we will keep fighting for him. Under Dr. Carpenter's recommendation, he is being moved to another facility better equipped to handle his post-op recovery. So that is what they have posted. That is all the news that we know now, and we'll keep you updated as we hear.
Well, Simon, as you said, the surgery's one thing. We've come a long ways, and they can pull that off pretty easily. It's just the recovery is always the most significant part for thoroughbreds. They've got to be good patients. If you're dealing with a person, you tell them what to do, and they follow.
Right.
Horses, it's a different communication.
Yeah, it's. I said that on our show yesterday. The most important part is the recovery post the surgery. I mean, they can pretty much do that fairly easily, but it's the recovery, waking up from anesthesia. Obviously, these are animals. You know, you can't just, like you say, put a horse in a bed and say just stay there for a couple of days until we want to get you moving around. So yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully, everything goes in the right direction. But he has been transported to another facility.
Yeah, and as we said, because of the setup here at the Breeders' Cup in Santa Anita itself, he's getting the best care in the world he could possibly receive. Back into the preparations for the Breeders' Cup this Friday and Saturday, and we noticed the activity is picked up with the schooling sessions behind us here in the paddock, but let's rejoin Michelle Yu once again.
Well, guys, on the flip side of it, we're actually walking right now by Arabian Knight. He's heading out here for trainer Bob Baffert, and he is going to work. You can see him accompanied by the stable pony and Jimmy Barnes, assistant trainer. So Arabian Knight heading out right now to be a worker on this very next set.
And we will get to the racetrack with Arabian Knight and others coming out here. As we said, the break just happening, and these horses will be out on the track when we return after this short timeout on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup.
With NetJets, travel will always be personal. We do everything it takes to make every flight exceptional. Every single detail of your experience is personalized, just for you. As our standard is not just to meet our definition of perfection, it's to exceed yours.
Hey there, it's Craig Carden. I know I can't believe it either, but the World Series is officially here. So if you're choosing to make a wager on the series this year, please be sure to do so responsibly. Gambling should always be fun, social, and entertaining. If at any time you reach a point where it's not all three, take a break, take a breath. Go to FanDuel.com/playwell. Go there right now. Run. Go there and learn more.
Hey, so I found a betting system that's really working great for me.
So did I. What's yours?
I set up an hour-a-week time limit on FanDuel,
I can also set up wager limits, so I only bet what I can afford, and betting stays fun.
Right.
So what's your system?
What's that?
Your system. What's your system? What is that?
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours.
Chase the day with Day Chaser Cocktails, the official ready-to-drink canned cocktail of Breeders' Cup.
I know you could use a cocktail.
Yep.
You had an eventful morning. We're going to get to that breakfast marquee once we're done here, but we're with you until 10 a.m. local time. Welcome back to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. I'm Todd Schrupp alongside Simon Bray. Before we went to break there, Arabian Knight was making his way out onto the racetrack. I mentioned this with Joaquin when we listened to the interviews. I mean, Bob Baffert always seems to have confidence. Brad Cox is the one that kind of caught me by surprise. He was ultra confident talking to Caton at Churchill. How confident should Bob Baffert be in Arabian Knight, 3-year-old taking on older horses for the first time in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic?
I think he should be fairly confident, right? I mean, Go Rocket Ride, who's not participating, that would have been one of the choices in here, top 3-4 betting choices. That makes Arabian Knight right there. And, you know, we've seen this before. Lightly raced horse comes in fresh off a layoff. I like by design that they've gone straight from the Pacific Classic to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Gives them plenty of time. And the one thing he has in his favor is a pace edge. Bob Baffert mentioned the draw this afternoon is going to be key. It's going to be key for this horse particularly.
And the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic in a different spot than we're used to. It will not be the end of the Breeders' Cup races on Saturday. There will still be a couple more to come after that. Later today, the post position draw. Bob Baffert talking about post positions for his 2-year-olds. What do you think is the ideal post for Arabian Knight to go this 1.25 miles at Santa Anita?
Well, it's a long run into that first turn. I would say you want to be anywhere, you know, to the middle, towards the inside. If he got post position 1, I don't think it would be the absolute end here, just by virtue of the fact you have the long stretch to before you run into that first turn. And he's got so much speed, I could see him popping out of there and being on the lead easily out of the 1 post. I don't think you want to be too far wide, but the long run down the front side makes it a little easier than if you were breaking right on top of the turn.
So last time out when he won the FanDuel Pacific Classic, he was post position 8 in a field of 10. His barn buddy, Speedboat Beach, is out on the racetrack as well. And we're kind of looking at the line of horses that are getting ready to come out to the racetrack. But you'll see Speedboat Beach, he is with a pony as he heads out to the track. This horse was very impressive in the early part of his career. But this time around, he will be a price in the spot that they have him.
Yeah, I mean, he showed so much talent as an early 2-year-old. He's only had 1 start this year, and he finished second to Dr. Scheibel, so he could build off that.
A lot of activity here on the backside, especially with the Europeans in quarantine, and shortly going to be coming out here in a little while. And we welcome in once again Rishi Prasad.
Yes, alongside a man who I'm glad to say is back at the Breeders' Cup, Said Bin Saror, recognising some old faces, I imagine, as much as anything else, but wandering out to go and watch Mogge do a little bit of exercise. Said, first of all, how has she been since she has arrived here at Santa Anita?
She's doing good after when she ran and won at Kiel, and she came back well. She traveled well. I mean, she's toughly always. She handled it well. I mean, I'm happy with her. She worked Saturday at 7 furlongs, and yesterday it was like we give her like an easy time for her, easy day. But today she's back to the track again. Now we decide to run her in the mile. That's the best, I guess, the best trip anyway for her. She won over a mile in Dubai, also in Newmarket, had the Guineas. Last time she ran and won 9 furlongs. But I talked to Sheen after the race. We thought maybe the mile to be stuck with the mile better. I know she ran with the Colts, but she's good enough to go with them.
I'm glad. I think she's good for the mile as well. But I just wanted to ask you about being back at the Breeders' Cup with such a strong contender once again. And obviously we know about the past successes with the likes of Delamy and fantastic like Swain, Saki, etc. Horses that ran such great races in the Classic. How much of a buzz and excitement do you get?
It is, the Breeders' Cup always is good meetings and tough to win. But you have to take the right horse. I mean, Mogge, she's a classic winner, and she's good enough to run in this meeting. She proved herself in the past as in the Guineas and in America also with good horses. But this time only things is different because it is with Colt. You know, but I thought, no, so far she's third favorite. But I think she's good enough to be with them. Ocean here knows her well, you know, and now we're looking for the draw. I hope we got the good draw for her. Yeah.
I hope so too. We wish you the very best of luck. We look forward to seeing what she can do out on the track. Morge just about to head out.
And a live look at Mogge waiting with others to come out onto the track. And Simon, we've talked a little bit about Saeed Ben Sarur and what this means to be back at the Breeders' Cup. But what about this decision to go to the mile? Because he said clearly going into the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup, this will determine where we go. It was either the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf or the mile against the boys. Do you agree with the choice that they made?
1,000%. It was the right prep race. 9 furlongs. It's in between the mile. It's in between the mile and a quarter. So they had a sweet spot there to gauge where they were going to go as we look at Arabian Knight here just getting Gallop ready to do his work. But back to Morge real quick. I think the mile is the right, absolutely the right move. I mean, we saw her at Keeneland. She's you know, a filly that was on her toes before the race. She gets pretty aggressive. She's very up tempo. She's got a high you know, energy level, and I think the mile and a quarter might just be stretching her a little too far. I think she's built for a mile, being a half to modern games. You know, fillies have won 12 of the 40 runnings of the Breeders' Cup mile, 39 runnings, I should say. And 3-year-olds have great success here. So, you know, the fact that she's a 3-year-old, the fact that she's a filly, doesn't matter. We've seen it. It can be done.
Let's turn our attention to another 3-year-old. This is a live look at Arabian Knight out on the racetrack in one of his final major moves before the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic this Saturday. And Arabian Knight based here at Santa Anita, but oddly enough, has never raced here.
Never raced in California, or California once, I should say, winning the TVG Pacific, the FanDuel Pacific Classic. But prior to that, you know, I'd been to Keeneland, Oakland Park, Monmouth. So this is a home game for Arabian Knight, and I think the design was always to go in the Pacific Classic with the break to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Obviously, there is the Awesome Again here, run a month ago, that was on the table there, but this is by design. And, you know, he's a horse that's been working lights out. We heard from Gary Young earlier in the week. I think he's going to run a huge race.
And so far, we haven't had a chance to see him consistently. You talked about the design of running in the FanDuel Pacific Classic, then passing on the local prep here for the Classic, the Awesome Again, and come in as a fresh horse. That's kind of defined his career. Off his longest layoff from January to July of this year, he came into the Haskell. He looked like he was running a huge race as the favorite, and then he faded to third. But if you go back and watch that race, in a weird move, he goes past the wire and then he takes off a second time, and so it was kind of an indication he would move forward in the FanDuel Pacific Classic, and he did. What kind of workhorse is he here as you watch him?
Outstanding workhorse. I mean, he just floats over the ground. He's very efficient with his stride. I mean, very light on his feet. I bet if you were down there trackside, you'd hardly hear him go by. He's just floating over the ground. You know, efficient mover, low to the ground with his action, gets over the ground extremely well. And you know, he's a very fast racehorse. You got to remember, he cost $2.3 million at a 2-year-old in training sale. And what rate brings a high price at a 2-year-old in training sale? It's usually a fast work in conjunction with a good physical. I mean, pedigree sometimes doesn't have a whole lot to do with it, but It's the ability to move fast very, very quickly, and he does that.
They're getting some early returns on this big purchase. An earner of $1.2 million, Arabian Knight, the son of Uncle Mo out of the astrology mare, Borealis Knight, and was bred by Courser Thoroughbreds in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So Arabian Knight on schedule. He's had a very good week here for trainer Bob Baffert, leading to the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. But here is Speedboat Beach preparing for the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Yeah, this is a horse who showed a lot of talent early on. And, you know, he ran in the Breeders' Cup last year in the Juvenile Turf Sprint off a nice stakes win. And he didn't perform that well. So Bob decided to put him back on the dirt this year. And his first start back was in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship. And it was a great race. I mean, he ran second to Dr. Scheibel off a long layoff. So expect him to take a big step forward.
Yeah, it seems like whenever you talk about the Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita, the name Byron comes up, but in a much different conversation. And for Speedboat Beach, he is a son of Byron, who obviously a Longines Breeders' Cup Classic participant. And Speedboat Beach, though, is a very, very fast horse. And it was unusual to me in my mind. Bob Baffert's never in a hurry to go to the turf. He was so good in his debut on the dirt, going 5.5 furlongs in 101.4, a track record on the main track at Del Mar. And that was as a 2-year-old. That I'm surprised that they had as many races as they did on the turf. But as you said, once they came back for the 3-year-old season, it was back to the main track. And if you like Dr. Scheibel, and many people do in this race, then why wouldn't you be looking at Speedboat Beach, who has every right to improve? Second start off a lengthy layoff, and here is Speedboat Beach getting into his morning exercise.
Another very fast workhorse in the morning. If you look at his workouts on the page, I mean, it's just bullet workout after bullet workout. And when he's not, you know, posting the fastest of the day, it's usually the second fastest of the day. So he's a horse that's pretty quick. Bob Baffert there in the stands looking on. He communicates with his riders.
That's right, I was going to say, with the two-way radio.
Yep.
He's doing that right now.
Looking down at the watch. And again, this is a horse where you're not going to have to ask him for much. You know, he's a sprinter. He's just one-dimensional, fast horse. I mean, he's a 5-furlong rocket ship. And the rider, I think, is doing a tremendous job here. The fact the track is a little quiet probably helps him. No company around him.
And finishing up down the lane at Speedboat Beach. His previous work was 6 furlongs out of the gate, and it was a solid 111. And this looks to be well within hand and very, very comfortable, whatever this time ultimately ends up being.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the time is, Bob, watching him gallop out. But this is a horse, again, you watch him on the screen there and you don't think he's going down there in probably 59 and change when, you know, he's doing it extremely easy, does everything very easy, very fast horse, good workhorse.
And so it's not going to be a huge field in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but there are quality horses that obviously have to get through. It is the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but none bigger than Elite Power, who won this race last year and has essentially ruled the division this year. Good Night has obviously been able to beat Elite Power. Those two horses going to get a lot of attention coming in from the East Coast. But as far as locally, Speedboat Beach right there with Dr. Scheibel for the California Sprinters. Watching Speedboat Beach, the son of Byron out of the Pioneer of the Nile mare, Sophia Mia, bred by Caper Lane Farm in the Sunshine State of Florida. Watching him finish off his final preparations here for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And remember, with the new schedule this year, you're going to get the Sprint after the Classic. And so still 2 very good races will come up on Saturday after what has been the traditional end to the Breeders' Cup races, the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, which is good for us. We wanted to keep going on and on. All right, Joaquin?
Todd, thank you very much. Bob Baffert, he was locked in the zone right now watching these 2 workouts. So much so he had to stand up for this one versus sitting down in your box. Let's start with...
They kicked me out of my box because they're paying it.
All right, so let's start with Arabian Knight preparing for the Breeders' Cup Classic. What did he do this morning right now?
Yeah, I just went a half with him and just to sharpen him up and let him gallop out 5/8. And so, He looked good. He was moving well. He looks healthy, and that's the main thing. It's we know they're good horses as long as they're looking healthy and moving well. And so the rider was happy with the work. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking this last work.
How do you sum up how all the preparations have gone specifically for Arabian Knight since he won the FanDuel Pacific Classic at Del Mar?
Well, I think he's been doing well. He's maturing, and he's still, he's a speed horse. He's going to be in, I think a lot of it, the pace is going to be very important, to him. So we'll just see how he handles it.
A horse has never won the Breeders' Cup Classic in his 5th career start. Arabian Knight is trying to do that. Have you prepared him any differently coming into the Classic, taking on older horses once again?
No, I've just, I've been pointing for it since Del Mar. So, and everything's gone well. We haven't had a hiccup, which is good. So I think he's coming into it well enough. It's a matter of, racing luck now, and the pace is going to be a big factor.
All right, so from 1.25 miles on the dirt to 3/4 mile on the main track, Speedboat Beach preparing for the sprint. What did he do today?
Yeah, he was. He just went a half. He looked good. He's a horse that he got a lot out of that one work. Came back, worked well today. He's doing really well, and it's post position with the sprint. That's very important, and the break is very important. So I think he's doing. He's going into it the right way. Whether he's good enough. There's some good horses in there. But he was his first out. I think he broke the track record at Del Mar in the dirt, and I took him off the dirt to separate him from K-Rock, and that's why. And so, but now we gave him the time off, brought him back. So I think the sprint, he should be ready to run the sprint.
Unless he called another audible and you have more Breeders' Cup horses going at 9 a.m. that I don't know about. It seems like all your Breeders' Cup horses have worked and preparations are done. What's this moment like for you now, knowing that everybody has their morning workouts completed? How do you feel after all that has happened this morning?
Oh, they're all, all the homework's done. It's going to be turned in, and I like to get on a plane and just go to Cabo and watch them from Cabo and watch them TV and watch Jimmy suffer.
Well, Bob, we appreciate the time the last few mornings, and good luck this Breeders' Cup.
Well, hopefully they'll run well. Nice. Well, let's hope for a nice, safe Breeders' Cup day.
Andy Biancone, let's go over to you.
Mogge, our QE2 winner, a Grade 1 1,000 Guineas winner. She's following White Moonlight, who'll be running on the undercard of Breeders' Cup. But as you can see, we're just got a little fort of horse butts to keep her relaxed and contained. We jogged all the way from the gap. Now we're going to turn around, and she's going to go gallop behind her friend. Now, European horses, they like company, so having her sit just behind another horse on heels helps keep her relaxed and focused. As you can see, they're going to gallop around there, meet me back here, and then we're going to go back to the gate and practice some standing.
A fort of horse butts.
Wow.
That is a visual.
Yeah.
But what about what she's talking about here? How, and again, this is what I love seeing when we come to the Breeders' Cup. There's such a different approach from Europe to Japan to American-based trainers.
Yeah, everybody, globally has a different way of doing things just because of the setup back at their respective home countries. Obviously, training centers. Japan, they train at 2 training centers, Miho and Rito Training Center, Newmarket's a little different. Here in the U.S., we train where we race, and there's very few places that actually do that. So they will adjust. But, Godolphin's an international outfit. They adjust to wherever they go in the world. They've got, it's multinational operation. They've got people from the United States working in their operation. Horses in Newmarket wouldn't have worn 4 polo bandages like they do here in the United States. And this horse just slides right into the American routine. You wouldn't have seen that 20 years ago with horses coming from Europe.
Well, you also wouldn't have seen, where she's been previously, her out on the dirt. But here we are,
yep.
Mogge, preparing for the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile on the turf, presented by the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund here on the main track at Santa Anita.
Man, she's galloping great. What a nice move. Watching her last race and then watching her here, I think you'd have to put her in your business for the Breeders' Cup for sure. She looks phenomenal.
Mogge looking fantastic out here. We've heard from Saeed bin Sarur why they ultimately decided to end up here. Is she tractable? Because she went gate to wire in the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. I just think circumstances were ideal for that. Is that where she's most comfortable? Would she have to have the lead in the mile?
I don't think she needs the lead. She can track. She's not one that's going to be coming from way downtown like a typical European runner. She's got, you know, a North American kind of style where she can sit close to the pace. I think she was fresh off the layoff last time out with the ship and everything. She kind of got a little wound up before the race and ended up there. It was the right thing to do. You don't want to get in a wrestling match with her, but she's not going to be giving up 6 or 7, 8 lengths at the start. She's just looking tremendous here. She's just galloping behind her stablemate there, getting a lead.
Let's turn our attention to Future Stars Friday. So we'll see Mogge on Saturday, but here is just FYI. We heard from owner breeder George Krikorian yesterday, who was at the track. I'd imagine he's back again today, watching this daughter of Justify, whom he bred out of the street cry mare Star Act. She's 2 for 2 in her career. She took the traditional race for 2-year-old fillies that leads to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Last time out, she took the Grade 1 Frisette up in New York.
Yeah, that was on a sloppy racetrack, so I always, you know, handicap those races, you know, with a little asterisk next to the name. But just because she handled it, maybe some of the others didn't. There could be a form reversal when we get back on a fast main track. She's run well, though. I mean, she run first time out. She took some money that day, so she had been training well in the morning, and she gets over the ground great. I mean, she really does.
She, as we said, is bred to run from here to San Francisco, holding her breath. But everyone's going to have to hold their breath when it comes to the favorite in this race. Tamara has been fantastic all week. The only question, as we said, for her is that she has not been around 2 turns. But that's also a question for just FYI and a lot of horses in here. So when you look at the race and having a win around 2 turns isn't even that prevalent within the group, Tamara just has every advantage here. But just FYI, off to a tremendous start in her career, but can she beat the mighty Tamara? Let's go back to Andy Biancone.
Hey guys, so the ladies have just finished their nice canter. As you can see, Mogge has some dirt on her body, took some kickback in that gallop. That's just how close she was, covered up. I know it was kind of a question whether she'd be able to rate going into the Breeders' Cup Mile as she went gate to wire in the QE2, but absolutely, I don't think it'll be a problem, Todd. She rates every single morning behind her company just to help keep her relaxed. Obviously, she's very comfortable sitting in behind horses, and we're just making our way over to the gate where she's going to get some practice to stand. As you can see, she's just a beautiful filly, so proud. As you guys were saying, she's a gorgeous mover, and we see gates as well. And we're just going to practice here, Todd.
Andy, that is a wonderful view and great insight as well. You make a very, very good point. If she can rate like that in the mornings and be so comfortable, she can do it in the afternoon. And it's not even her preferred surface. As Andy pointed out, she had some kickback here with her stablemate. But what are we going to do here at the gate? Earlier, when we came on the air, Simon, we showed the exploits of Ushba Tesoro. It was a very entertaining morning for us, but a concerning morning for his connections. As he got in the gate, he rattled the gate. They tried to bring him back in. He wouldn't go back in. They had to open up the front of the starting stall, walk him through. What about these 2 runners? What will be the approach to schooling here at the gate?
Probably just to get them familiar, Stan. I mean, we've seen Mogge, you know, at Keeneland, she was fine going into the starting gate. So I would imagine just to stand. And it's not only for the horses, it's for the starting gate crew as well, to get familiar with, you know, some of these European runners. I mean, I would imagine Ushba Tesoro would need to go back to the starting gate again.
Yeah, that was a drawn out process. And as we said, you know, when you talk about this, it's so different from obviously race day, because the gate's going to be set up in a different part for Mogge's race that'll be on the turf. And as we said with Ushba Tesoro, the most concerning thing is he wouldn't be the first horse that had a meltdown before the Breeders' Cup Classic because of where that gate is. It's at the top of the stretch. There's not a lot of room back there.
And you're close to the crowd. It's not like the gate is on the far side of the track. The one that comes to mind, and I believe it was right here at Santa Anita, if I'm not mistaken, was
Quality Road. Some people said it was
the helicopter
that day.
Yeah. But, you know, there's a lot more than that. You know, he's got to get through the paddock with all the people. I mean, you can school in here and you see the shop behind us. It's empty. But, you know, there'll be, you know, thousands of people here next weekend. So there's a lot before they even get to the starting gates.
You know, speaking of memories, as you're jogging mine, wasn't there an incident with Curlin coming out of the Breeders' Cup Classic? Like some guy jumped in front of Curlin down here by the paddock. I seem to remember that.
Really?
Yeah. Fans, behave yourself. But we're excited to have you here. But these are the best horses in the world, and you will lose. Yeah, we're looking forward to the big crowd that will be here both Friday and Saturday. And you'll get up closer to the action than you might imagine. But here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, you can't get any closer than where we're taking you, as Andy is on horseback here following these two Godolphin runners. As we wait them to go to the starting gate and handle their business there, we take a look at Moira coming out onto the racetrack.
What are we doing here? Just right now, just jogging the wrong way. This is Moira coming in from Canada, right?
Yep.
Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf.
In fact, someone very familiar to Bob Baffert is associated with Moira and X-Men Racing, Madaket Stables. And Donato Lanni, he has taken great pride in her. After all, in her 3-year-old season, it was the Queen's Plate at the time, winning the Queen's Plate last year, the King's Plate this year. As far as her biggest races, most recently, she took the Grade 2 Canadian, and she is going to be a big price, you would imagine, in the Maker's Mark Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. From Canada, it's Moira out on the racetrack for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. No Nay Mets. Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros. He's made a couple appearances on the show this past week, talking to our reporters on FanDuel TV. And he keeps talking about his horse, No Nay Mets, getting ready for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint.
And why wouldn't he be excited? I mean, look at the record here, 3 for 4. The only blimp was finishing a distant 9th in the Norfolk Stakes at Royal Ascot. A lot to ask a young horse to go over there and do that. Obviously, the horse that beat him comes back in here. That's Valiant Force for Ammo Racing. But yeah, Alex Bregman, he was at Keeneland a couple of days ago. And he was at Churchill yesterday.
He loves it. He loves it.
We'll be out here next weekend, and you know, we know what No Nay Mets is going to do. I mean, just break on top and try and go as fast as you can, as far as you can.
Yeah, George Weaver has had some very good juvenile sprinters, and the Future Stars Friday has provided many great opportunities for the juveniles, and this has been a race that has become very popular. And good luck to Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros with No Nay Mets in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Andy?
Hey, Todd. We're standing by with Mogge. She's about to go in the gates. Her training partner, White Moonlight, is already standing, so Mogge is just waiting her turn, but acting so patiently, as you can see. She's just exuding class, so happy just to be in Dill Pickle's company, walking around here like a true professional. Her exercise rider, Michael, with us now. Michael, how'd she gallop?
Yeah, I mean, she went really well. Couldn't be happier with her. She knows what she's doing, so I just leave it up to her to do the job.
100%. Now we're going to be walking over to the gate, so you can see White Moonlight just got done. She's got a little bit of sweat on her neck, but she's still handling herself very well. And Mogge just going to go in there. Obviously, these European horses, they tend to put these pads in the gate for them. So, oh, sorry, it's okay. There Mogge goes. They're going to go ahead and dismount and switch riders. And yes, this is just something different. But I'm learning. I'm sitting here and pads going on, and she's just gonna walk in. As you can see, she's perfectly behaved here. Not a drop of sweat on her neck. Happy as a clam in the sand.
Anything unusual here, Simon, or is this exactly what you expected?
Yeah, I mean, I would. There's a lot going on. They switched riders for whatever reason, but they put that blanket on. We've been accustomed to that over the years now, and obviously there's two ledges in the starting gate. That's how the assistant starters have the ability to stand in the starting gate. There's a 6-inch ledge either side that the assistant starters stand on, and that ledge can tickle the horses right around their stifle area. It would be towards the back of the saddle towel. Top of the leg there, and that's a very sensitive area, and that's when the horses can start to act up in the starting gate. So that pad negates that sensitivity there. It just puts a block between the starting gate and the stifle area.
Andy was talking about riders being switched out. We saw that happen. If this were a horse coming from Florida to the Breeders' Cup, that trainer might use an exercise rider based in California, hire them freelance. When it comes to Godolphin, does everyone have a position, and do they travel all over the world?
Yeah, they do. They go with the horse. Yeah, they're not hiring any local bodies. They have kind of what I was touching on yesterday. Logistically, they have the workforce to do that. So this rider here was the one that put him in the starting gate. Maybe the guy that is getting back up. Oh, he's getting on the other one now, right? You don't see that very often, though. But, I mean, that was perfect. And now he's going to the other horse. That's right, with the Moonlight for Charlie Appleby. So I was very impressed. I mean, she walked in, stood there, and backed out. Perfect.
Mogge preparing for the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile presented by the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund, part of Saturday. Rishi?
I'm just chatting away to Tara Belfield, who is here looking after Big Evs for trainer Mick Appleby. I'm just saying that I just asked her how long she's been working for Mick Appleby, and she said 8 years. And I'm surprised because I've never seen you at the races before, Tara. I'm sure you'd be noticeable. So how come you haven't been racing with Big Evs before? Is that right?
No, I don't go with him. Not normally. We've got a lad at the yard. We've had a bit of visa issue, but yeah. So my dad normally does everything with him.
Okay. Now, just before we talk about Big Evs and this entire experience of being here at Santa Anita, you were supposed to be somewhere else in the world this week with your boyfriend, but a holiday has been cancelled. Again, am I right?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be in Tenerife. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday. Yeah. What's his name?
Happy birthday, Mark. Sorry about that. Yeah, so he's with his friend now. He's taking my place. Okay. And I came over here instead.
Well, far more important things to do here. How is Big Evs?
He's all right, yeah. He's settled lovely. Yeah, he was tired after his first travel. I mean, he hasn't been this far before. So the first night he had a bit of a temperature and he was a bit under the weather, but yeah, he's back to his old self.
When you say he's got a temperature, I mean, is that something that you just sort of, we think about it, oh, a horse has got a temperature, it's going to affect them, etc. Yeah. Or do you think, well, that's kind of par for the course when you're asking them a big question of travelling, which they've never done before?
Yeah, it's normal. Like, we were expecting it. We were expecting him to come off and be tired, basically. He travelled for 24 hours, all in all. Yeah, by the time he got here, we were expecting him to want to go to bed. And we carried on annoying him for a bit more. So, yeah, he's back to his old self now. He's back being grumpy. Yeah, ready to rock and roll.
And just a brief word about what he's done so far in his career. And obviously, he's been brilliant for Mick, and this is Mick's first ever Breeders' Cup runner. What was the one moment that made you all think, yes, this is a Breeders' Cup runner, we want to take him, let's get him out to Santa Anita?
Well, we knew from, day one he was a machine. They all knew. And then obviously Royal Ascot, we're like, okay, yeah, he's done that. We're we've proved it. Then he goes to Goodwood, yeah, okay, again, he's backed it up. And then obviously ran in the Nunthorpe against older horses. Yeah, he's very little in comparison to the rest of the horses. And then, yeah, he went to Doncaster, won there. and we thought, that's it. we've got something here. So yeah, hopefully he's got a right chance.
Well, Doncaster was very impressive. Tara, thank you very much for telling us about Biggers. When does Mick arrive?
Wednesday. So he'll be here Wednesday night, yeah.
All right, lovely. Well, it's a shame that your boyfriend can't be with you. I'll hang out with Tara for the week in the meantime. As we say, we'll head over and join Michelle.
Rishi over there trying to get dates for the weekend, and I'm just over here hanging out with Juan Leyva, who's the assistant trainer to John Sadler. He also gets on horses. He's also a Breeders' Cup winning rider. Do you want to talk about this horse first, or do you want to talk about reminiscing in the past first?
Well, I don't like to reminisce too much, but 2011, November 4th, it was a pretty special day for me. I'll never forget it because that's my mom's birthday, so it was obviously a big day as it was already, and to win a Breeders' Cup on that day was really special for me.
Now, the first thing that John Sadler told me was, do you know we have to torture him because he beat us that day? So John says he makes you shovel extra poop in the morning and everything to still pay him back for that win that you had.
Yeah, I mean, he would have had his first Breeders' Cup win way before Accelerate, but I had to spoil it for him. So yeah, he makes me pay for it on a daily basis.
Can you tell me a little bit about your feelings from that day and a little bit about the race?
It was just the feeling of accomplishment, you know, like you belong to a certain group because you've been there and you've done the job.
Do you feel like in your heart she has a higher place than Flightline because she gave you the Breeders' Cup win that you rode?
No. Flightline was, he's in his own plane. I mean, nobody can step into that.
All right, we're gonna stay over here now. I want to walk over to one of your Breeders' Cup contenders for this particular year. You also have Kirsten Bosch, but Slider. When I was talking to you at the races the other day, you told me this horse is being underrated. I haven't seen a lot of people talking about him. He worked really well, and he's got a live shot. He's coming in with 2 straight wins.
Yeah, I feel like he's a fresh horse, and like I said, he's very underrated. Nobody's really paying attention to him because he's not a flashy horse. He doesn't go out there and work super fast. He only does as much as you want him to do, and that's really good for him. I mean, if you see him gallop in the mornings, he just takes it really easy. He's very mellow. And this is about as much action as he's going to see from him right now.
It's a lot of action. I'm very scared. I keep stepping further away. You've promised me he won't bite me, but I'm not entirely sure I believe you.
No, he's a good boy. He's really mellow. And like I said, this is about as much action as you're going to get from him. He's usually always very quiet, but there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
Also, I want to ask about Kirsten Bosch real quick. She put in a blistering work, and I feel like no one's talking about that either.
That was a really good work, too. I was up at the stands with John and Keith, the owner, and it was really visually impressive. Mm-hmm. The way she galloped out was really nice. And she came out of it in really good shape. She jogged this morning, and she looked really good out there.
Now, Juan, are you getting old? You used to be on these horses. How come you're up in the stands watching now?
Well, I can't take the horses away from the people that have been riding them. And, you know, that's just the way it works out. These horses already have riders. I'm not going to go pull anybody off.
All right, well, I appreciate the time, and thanks for looking back on your Breeders' Cup win with us.
Thank you, Michelle.
Guys?
Yeah, what a privilege to have been associated with Flightline in that manner. When we come back to Santa Anita, more preparations continue for Future Stars Friday. We'll take a look at general partner for trainer Chad Brown, who will be in the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile presented by Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger. Snake Neck Spear and Asheen Murphy get through and have won. It's getting really tight. The star of the season, Drawing Line. The purple cap. Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. The other midline. Mongostina has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
It is going to be Caramel to win the turf sprint.
Hey, so I found a betting system that's really working great for me.
So did I. What's yours?
I set up an hour-a-week time limit on FanDuel. I can also set up wager limits, so I only bet what I can afford, and betting stays fun.
Right.
So what's your system?
What's that?
Your system. What's your system? What is that?
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours.
You think life is short? Football is short. The regular season's just 18 weeks. That's it. So cherish every over and under before it's over on FanDuel. With live betting on every NFL game. Because before you know it, a cold night at the Buffalo Bills game will just be a cold night in Buffalo.
Bet
$5, get $150 bonus if your team wins, plus a profit boost every single day. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
40 years ago, we were founded for thoroughbred racing. For 40 years, we've set the stage for the world to come and race. We've dedicated our lives to our sport, to witness the unforgettable, to reach the mountaintop, to win a championship that defines a legacy. Our love, our dedication, our passion, it runs deep.
FanDuel's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by WinStar Farm and by Phasic Tipton.
Going into the Breeders' Cup, it's important to remember that Julie Crone hadn't ridden in a Breeders' Cup race in 7 years. And with nothing left to prove, that was the one thing that was missing from her resume. There had never been a female rider to win the Breeders' Cup, but that really wasn't even the focal point. It was all about the relationship between Julie, the Hall of Famer, and this incredible horse, Half Bridled. At the age of 40, Julie found a horse that she called the best 2-year-old she had ever ridden. And Half Bridled, that big, lanky filly with the big ears, loved Julie. She was undefeated going into the juvenile fillies. There was no question she would be favorite, but interestingly went off as high as 2-1 when she drew post 14 in the biggest, toughest field of her life.
And they're off. Dixie High hustles out of there, and there goes Forest Music, seizing the initiative early. A Shadow comes away running in second. Half Bridled stuck out there 4 wide.
You could see the confidence Julie had. She went right to gain position, then settled into stride. And she said she did way more pulling than pushing, as Half Bridled was all racehorse, and she remained patient. Julie was all confidence, even down the backstretch, just getting Half Bridled throttled down, wait. You could see Half Bridled's ears flicking back and forth, just begging to run.
Half Bridled looms a threatening third on the outside right there, and Julie Crone's got a handful.
She moved up into third on the turn, and I remember watching thinking, wow, she's going to gobble up the field, and that's exactly what she did the instant Julie let her go.
Tinto as the field turns for home, and Half Bridled comes off the turn in front. Victory USA, Jerry Bailey working on her. Half Bridled in front line, Victory USA fights on. A Shadow right there, a threat on the outside third. Down to the final 100 yards. Half Bridled in front, and Half Bridled is pulling away. Victory USA, a Shadow giving futile chase under the line. It's Half Bridled, a filly champion.
Great horses make jockeys look good, and this is one of the most incredible young horses I've ever sat on in my life.
Afterwards, Julie was a little bit subdued, considering she was the first female rider to win a Breeders' Cup race that's a non-steeplechase. But Dick Mandela gave her a world of praise.
Not just any jockey could have been as cool as she was. She finessed herself like an ice skater around that first turn, and I was very happy with her.
It was a combination of an incredible racehorse and an incredible ride.
39 years of memories from the Breeders' Cup, and that was one right here at Santa Anita, the 40th edition of the Breeders' Cup, coming up this Friday and Saturday here in Arcadia, California. Julie Crone, a lot of firsts. You knew her at the top of her game riding. I met her when I first started in my career. She became a friend afterwards. Huge fan, but a lot of firsts. She was the first to win a Triple Crown race. She rode Colonial Fair to a win in the Belmont Stakes. Half Bridled there, first woman rider to win a Breeders' Cup race. Julie Crone is truly one of the best. And set aside gender, she was just one of the best riders, period.
Naturally gifted.
Yeah.
I mean, her size helped her a lot. You know, covers the Sports Illustrated all. She was actually a national treasure. Really, really good rider. Just a pure talent. Like you said, whether she's male or female, it doesn't matter. She just had very good talent, very good hands, very soft hands, as we like to say. Could nurse a horse along very, very well and did a great job. Natural horsewoman.
Do you remember when we showed Cigar winning the Breeders' Cup Classic as one of those moments we saw a young Simon Bray?
Yeah.
We noticed something in this Half Bridled memory right there. Okay, you may not recognize her at home, but we recognize her. That is our senior producer, Becky Somerville. She used to work for Dick Mandela, and then when she got into television, we were very fortunate that she found her way here to FanDuel. If you wonder why these shows are so great, how they stay organized, how they stay on track, it is her, Becky Somerville. Once upon a time, she was with Dick Mandela, and that's why she's so great at her job here. She knows this world better than anyone. So good to see her back then in that very special memory. Let's take a look at the memories that could be made this time around in the Breeders' Cup. Staying with Future Stars Friday, general partner out for trainer Chad Brown. This horse was second in the Champagne last time out to Timberlake. If you listen to trainer Brad Cox in our interviews that Kate and Bradar had at Churchill Downs, he loves Timberlake. Coming to the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile presented by Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. How about Chad Brown? Should he like the chances of the horse who was second to Timberlake last time out in the Champagne, general partner?
I think he should. I mean, the horse appears so far to be just a little one-dimensional. Horse that likes to be on or close to the lead. Again, the 2 turns should probably help with the pedigree that we're talking about. A lot of these horses, the added distance is going to help. That's why they're showing up here. That's why they start later on in the year. But pretty little horse who's jogging very, very well there.
And when you look at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies versus the boys, Juvenile fillies, Tamara far and away the horse to beat. I just don't think that horse exists.
No, there's no standout.
Baffert's going to come with Prince of Monaco and his other 2 horses as well. But I think, every connection in here has some concern. Could pave the way maybe for an upset in the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile part of Future Stars Friday.
Looks like he's just jogging. I don't think he'll be, because he's got the bell boots on, the protective covers on his front feet. So I would imagine he's just jogging today. And the rider's got his stirrups extremely long there. That would indicate he's just jogging, not getting ready to gallop.
Let's stay with the Chad Brown barn. You have McCulloch getting ready for the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf. She's coming off a win in the Grade 3 Weah last time out. Boy, she does have a presence out here on the racetrack. She is a daughter of the legendary Frankel.
Yeah, I mean, great pedigree. Probably just, I would think, a cut below. She's got her biggest challenge might come from a stablemate in Italian who's going to be in this race. She deserves a shot in here though, but like I said, she probably needs just to step it up from a class standpoint just a little bit here.
Yeah, her big Grade 1 win was the Grade 1 Belmont Oaks Invitational, restricted to 3-year-old fillies. In this season, she's had 2 wins, the Grade 2 Glens Falls up at Saratoga, and then as we said last time out, the Grade 3 Weah, which was over a very yielding turf course, Belmont at Aqueduct. She has to definitely run the race of her lifetime to get a win in the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf. Joaquin?
Well, Todd, Japan has been dominating Group 1 races all over the world for the past couple years. And this year, they have brought 9 horses here underneath the San Gabriel Mountains at Santa Anita. Here's track announcer Murray Johnson, and he tells us more on Team Japan going into this year's Breeders' Cup.
I've been calling racing in Japan for the last 20 years. And over that time, it's just grown from strength to strength. We're seeing Japan go to different parts of the world and win convincingly. And why is that so? Well, they're targeting the prize money. They're targeting the big races around the world and bringing the cash and the trophies back to Japan. So this time, Japan is taking on the Breeders' Cup in numbers. And first up, Derma Sotogake. Americans might remember Derma Sotogake this year at Churchill Downs. Didn't start the race well at all, but boy, what a finish, and a strong 6th. So they clean up the start. Derma Sotogake's got to go in your bets. Now we turn our attention to the horse that's probably on the rise, Ushba Tesoro. You may recall him big time at the Dubai World Cup. This horse is coming off a strong win in Tokyo recently. The field wasn't particularly strong, but the finish by this horse was so convincing. I think he's going to actually glide through the dirt at Santa Anita. So look forward to him being a horse in the finish. Now on to the turf horses. We look at Win Marilyn, recent winner in December in Hong Kong. And you may recall her finishing behind Equinox in Dubai. She's coming back in trip, but don't count her out. And next we look at Shahryar. He is a Japan Group 1 winner, but unfortunately recently his form has tended to taper off. But when he goes overseas, he tends to raise to a different level. And I think that's something you've got to watch for him. So put your money maybe on the place or the show for Shahryar. And the final of our turf runners is Songline. This horse is all class. She loves Tokyo. Recently, she's gone back-to-back with Group 1 wins. And the Yasuda Kinen, I had great pleasure in calling this race. A finish you really want to enjoy. Songline is rattling home down the middle of the track. Here comes Songline. Songline bursting down. Schnellmeister late along the inside, setting fast. Songline goes back-to-back. Okay, you've had a look at the 5 I like, and they've got chances of a different variety. But it's only 2 years ago, people started to take notice of Japanese horses. Yeah, 2 big winners. The first time on that level for Japanese horses. And you ask yourself, why? Why are they doing it now? Well, it's all about the breeding and the combinations of the stallions and the mares. Of course, these stallions, a lot of them have come from America and producing horses that can perform on the big stage on dirt. That has been a problem in the past, but not anymore. And I think Japan will get stronger. So it's a case of Breeders' Cup wa Gambare Nippon.
Murray Johnson, you are Ichiban, #1 in my book. You and I have had the privilege to go over to several Japan Cups. We got to know Murray very well. He's a very entertaining personality, if you couldn't tell. In fact, after the Japan Cup, we all get on a media bus and go back to the hotel. He runs a pool, how long it will take. Everyone turns in a time.
Right,
and
there's
then
a clock in the bus.
Yeah.
We all have to run a pool and bet how long it's going to take through the Tokyo traffic.
Looking at this group this year, the Yasuda Kinen winner, Songline, big chance.
Yes.
Ushba Tesoro, those antics at the starting gate this morning, does that concern you?
That's a concern.
For the Breeders' Cup Classic?
Yeah, that's a concern for me because he's doing that. You know, he's a well-traveled racehorse. You think he'd be used to that right now. He's doing that with, you know, there's not a lot going on this morning. Very quiet back there at the starting gate. So I think you need to pay attention tomorrow morning, maybe the following morning to see if he goes back to the starting gate. One would assume that he would.
Let's go back to Joaquin Jaime.
And Todd, thank you very much. Here in the barns right now with trainer Nacho Correas, and he has 2 horses in the Breeders' Cup this year with Didia and La Vida, who's going to be in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Right now on the Walsh rack, we're looking at Didia, who's going to be in the Philia Mare Turf. And Nacho, she punched her ticket into that race because she won a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race in the Rodeo Drive. What do you think about her performance last race for Didia in the Rodeo Drive here at Santa Anita?
Oh, I mean, it was, I think, an amazing performance. I mean, it's... we came here looking for a good effort. I mean, she was sitting on a good race, but I think that she was, I mean, a little bit more than we expected, thinking that she have not run for like 4 months. So, I mean, I think that it was a very good prep race.
Was that 4-month break, was that designed? Was that part of the plan for you, or was there other things that happened in the meantime?
No, I mean, what happened is that she hit her head and she have a cut in her head like 10 days before the Beverly D. We shipped to Virginia. She was doing good. I galloped her the day before the race. I didn't like where her mind was, so we decided to scratch, and then we have to come with an alternative plan, and it was either the First Lady or the Rodeo Drive, and I think that she is better at 1.25 miles than at a mile, no doubt.
Well, she's coming off a victory here in her most recent start right at Santa Anita. Since she has been here, how has she acclimated? How has she trained for you since being here in Southern California?
She has been training great. I mean, she's very easy to train. I mean, it's like, I mean, she's full of energy every day, so it's pretty easy.
All right, so another horse that you're going to have running in this year's Breeders' Cup is going to be La Vida. She'll be in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She was working in Kentucky at Keeneland, and she had a sharp workout, maybe it was at 2 workouts ago, where she worked 47. Is that usually La Vida? Is she a very fast worker in the mornings?
She can be. That was not what I wanted.
Oh, really?
The plan was to work her easy that day and then give her something a little bit more important, you know, the week before. so we have to switch, gears, and we took that as the fast work, and we worked her easy last week. But she put a very nice work. She's training good. I mean, she's gonna need a little bit of help of the ones that goes in the lead, but I think she's gonna run a big race too.
And she's had a decent campaign too. I guess in racing nowadays, having 8 starts in a season seems like a lot. How has she handled the 8 races for her campaign this year?
Oh, I think that she was very good at all her races. I mean, I will point at 2 that one was when she ran 5th at Oakland, that was on the mud, that she didn't like it. And then the other one was probably the one prior to the Spinster that I don't have a clue what happened. I mean, it's like, it was not her. I mean, it's not. She's usually show up every race. So we hope that she show up next Saturday here and run her race. I mean, whatever that take her, but I think she's going to run very well.
All right, hoping she's going to show up for the race on Saturday. When does she show up here to your barn?
She should be here today around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So tomorrow she's going to hit the track around 9 or so.
Well, Nacho, appreciate the time. Thank you for letting us come back to the barn here. Good luck in this year's Breeders' Cup with your 2 horses.
Thank you very much, and always welcome.
Thank you, guys. Todd?
You can be part of the action these 2 championship days, this Friday and Saturday here at Santa Anita. It is the perfect venue for the Breeders' Cup. The best in the world have gathered here. Brandy Harmon and the ticket crew at the Breeders' Cup are ready to take care of you. Contact them now, breederscup.com/tickets. Big day ahead. Aside from the preparations that you're watching, it's the post-position draw later today at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium. On site will be Mike Joyce for us, Andy Biancone, part of our coverage, Simon Bray, and I will be out here on the desk getting you set for the show and then having reaction to what we watch. All the Breeders' Cup races, all the post-drawn. Join us 4:30 local time, 7:30 on the East Coast. We'll be back with more breakfast at the Breeders' Cup.
As horse racing's greatest take the stage at the Breeders' Cup, we're working to provide an ecosystem of care to keep these athletes safe. With comprehensive veterinary examinations starting weeks before entry, up until they leave the starting gate. With extensive racing, surface testing, and measurement protocols. New national uniform regulation and rigorous enforcement under the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority. And with the addition of advanced technology and new diagnostic tools, we're taking great and positive strides. But we are committed to doing much more. So no matter who wears the crown, safety runs first at the Breeders' Cup. To learn more, visit breederscup.com/safety.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one also runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, our best-selling big fan hands down. BigFans.com. Comfort without compromise.
His tractor, and his family. These are the Upshaws, though he goes by Shaw, which stands for skilled hands at work. From cutting hair and mowing grass to roasting marshmallows, he's got a grasp on what matters most. There's a story in every piece of land. Run with us on a John Deere tractor and start telling yours. John Deere is the official partner of the Breeders' Cup World Championships.
to the Sportsbook Draft, where FanDuel's pick is in.
With the first pick in the 2023 Sportsbook Draft, FanDuel selects horse racing.
Brilliant pick, as FanDuel becomes the first and only sportsbook app where you can bet on horse racing.
Just a savvy move by a savvy franchise. New customers get a no-sweat bet on the Breeders' Cup up to $200.
It's like they know each other.
What do you think Rob's saying to him right now?
Probably something about oats.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Welcome back here to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. It is that time of the morning again. I have tracked down Michael McCarthy, who is so thrilled to see us. What are you doing right now?
Just going through my what we call a day board here. It's got kind of a schedule for what every horse is doing for the day, and just kind of checking and double checking.
I want to talk about Clearly Unhinged then, because she just came back in. I feel like we've missed her every day. What'd she do today, and how's she going?
Worked the other day, first day back to the racetrack today, just jogged 1 mile. She's doing very well. Obviously a big ask, 3-year-olds against olders, but she's got an affinity for this racetrack. She's trained well. So looking forward to see what happens on Saturday.
Does it give you some added confidence that she's already had a race against olders locally, and she ran really well?
Yeah, she did. She just shows up every time. Such a classy filly. Obviously Racing's championship day. Everybody takes it up a notch, and we're hoping she can do the same thing.
On a non-horse subject, I know you love these multicolored pens. What does each color mean?
We start off the day with black, then we move to red for depending on what it is. Just I guess it's more of a
fidget?
Yeah, it's more of a safety blanket than anything else, really. Just started with working for Todd Pletcher and always having the 4 colored pens around. I guess it's one of the few things I've retained since I've...
And I have to ask, with Halloween coming up, I can't imagine that you're dressing up, but maybe you can tell me what your daughter's wearing.
I'll find out tonight. That's a good question. I think she was a ballerina the other night, and I'm not sure if she goes a ballerina again tomorrow night or not. You never know. Teenage girl.
Are you going to dress up? Please say yes.
See how I feel in the morning.
If you were going to dress up, what would be the one costume you might wear that's not horse trainer?
Superman.
Oh, please. Please. Oh, you could be a Masters champion? Because that's what you... Oh. Superman or a Masters champion, we're not sure. We'll see what Michael McCarthy comes dressed as tomorrow.
If you two ever do a reality show, I'm watching. That is entertaining there. Thank you, Michelle. And, yeah, behind the dry humor, much like Todd Pletcher, is a very, very good trainer.
Very good trainer.
McCarthy,
yeah, he was out here for a long time. Worked, you know, as a native of California, worked out here with Ben Cecil for a while, and then went back and did all his real true grounding work with trainer Todd Pletcher.
We will get you to the backside. We'll also get you back out on the main track. Much more to come here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup.
FanDuel Casino has your chance at the #1 feeling, winning, which ranks even higher than the 18th best feeling, saving a kid from a well. 59 years later. Find the #1 feeling winning on FanDuel Casino Reward Machine. Free to play every day with a chance at a $2,000 top prize.
Hey there, it's Craig Carden. I know I can't believe it either, but the World Series is officially here. So if you're choosing to make a wager on the series this year, please be sure to do so responsibly. Gambling should always be fun, social, and entertaining. If at any time you reach a point where it's not all three, Take a break. Take a breath. Go to FanDuel.com/playwell. Go there right now. Run. Go there and learn more.
Your brain is an amazing thing. But as you get older, it naturally begins to change, causing a lack of sharpness or even trouble with recall. Thankfully, the breakthrough in Prevagen helps your brain and actually improves memory. The secret is an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish. In clinical trials, Prevagen has been shown to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
Gunrunner's level of ability was matched by how intelligent he was. He had such a great understanding of what you were trying to accomplish. In his 4-year-old season of the dominance, he showed here at Saratoga how fast he ran and how he looked doing it. We couldn't have been any more confident, but we still had to go out to California and just let him show you how he got there. He is as cool as it gets to run on race day. He looked beautiful and handled extremely well, and it was an extremely special race.
They're off in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
They were moving right along, but Bront had a lot of confidence.
So Gunrunner will get ahead of Collected early on here.
Anything you wanted him Bront to be a little bit more relaxed when they lined out down the backside.
So will they go up the backstretch in the Breeders' Cup Classic at Del Mar, and Gunrunner and Collected are 1-2.
About the 3/8 foal, you can tell Martine thought he had him, Collected made a good run on him for about 1/8 of a mile to the quarter pole, but as soon as they came into the stretch, the separation he got, and then he continued onto the wire at a pace that was impossible for him to catch.
Gunrunner's got the lead. Collected West Coast is bearing down on them on the outside. Final 16th. Gunrunner reaching for the wire. Collected's alongside. And then comes West Coast and War Story. But Gunrunner's on top of the world. He wins the Breeders' Cup Classic.
For me, racing's always been extremely emotional.
Taking it right to the competition from the gate.
The Breeders' Cup captivated Gunrunner's unbelievable 4-year-old year. The fact that he is proving it in the breeding shed, it's so special that Gunrunner is going to be in the breed for as long as they race horses.
Guys, I'm joined right now by Scott Blasi, who was the assistant trainer, or is the assistant trainer for Steve Asmussen, and of course was the main companion for Gunrunner throughout his career. What were your memories from that Breeders' Cup Classic win?
He had prepared here at Santa Anita. We had brought him out early, and when we put his major work in, he galloped at 1:37. I was like, nobody's beating this horse. And, he was just an elite talent that got better as he got older. And he's just very special to us. Ron, Mr. Torrealba, own him, and to get a chance to be able to prove him as a sire and still be a part of him is just a great experience.
You do have a Gun Knight in here. He is sired by Gunrunner. Do you see any of Gunrunner in him? Does Gunrunner pass on his mind or anything like that to a lot of his foals that you've had?
Yeah, we have Gun Knight and Society, which are both by Gunrunner, that are in the Breeders' Cup this year. And, both of them have gotten better as they got older. They got faster as they got older. Very sound horses. So, a lot of his qualities.
Oh, too bad I'm not a daughter of Gun Knight. I don't get faster as I get older.
Me either.
Scott Blasi was the right-hand man for Gunrunner, guys, and we have some great memories of him.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. I think that was the first Breeders' Cup held at Del Mar, and now he is one of the best sires in the world. And no surprise, he's given a lot of good horses to Steve Asmussen. So Gunrunner means a lot to the Asmussen barn for both his career and now what he's doing at stud.
Yeah, tremendous. He's parlayed that race career into a phenomenal stud career. And Gun Knight, he's in with an absolute legitimate chance in the sprint.
Still waiting for some horses to come out after the renovation break, but a busy backside and Rishi Prasad in the middle of it all.
Yes, just chatting away to Tony Proctor, who is here with the John and Thady Gosden runners, obviously two of them, Mostadaf and Inspiral. But we're just reflecting and just chatting away about your first appearance here at Santa Anita was with the Godolphin team, is that right?
No, my first appearance in America was with the Godolphin team in Churchill Downs. My first appearance here was with Henry Cecils.
Wow.
Yeah, midday.
Oh my goodness.
That's a long time ago.
And of course, now with everywhere we see John and Thady Gosden with big runners, we see you controlling things. Here with Mostadaf and Inspiral, how have they come over from the UK?
Yeah, they've been good. They seem to have settled in well. They're eating, drinking well, so we're happy at the moment.
When we talk about the requirements for these horses and what they've had to do, we often talk about them settling in, etc. What about you guys? Because I was just chatting to you and a couple of other members of the staff around here. It's a big ask on your physical fitness when you're travelling as well.
Yeah, it can be long days early on when we first come over because you're sort of like a little bit in the unknown when the horses are going to arrive and things like that. So you have to be up and around, and it's like when they came this time, it was a long night coming off the plane. We were there in the barn here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we ended up leaving the barn at 2:30 the following morning. So, it was a long day, but it is what it is.
Well, you're looking well for what it is. Let's just a brief word about the two horses and just how well they are. I mean, Mostadaf, we saw him win the Juddmonte International last time out. He was supposed to go to Ascot, so he actually went to the racecourse that day?
Yeah, he went, and there was every reason we were going to run him, but the ground just wasn't for him. So they took the best decision for him, and they brought him here. He's in great form. He looks fantastic.
Obviously, one of the questions people talk about is the 1.5 mile trip, but this is a sharp 1.5 mile, and he's got some turn of foot over 10 furlongs.
Yeah, he's got a very good turn of foot, and he's stayed a stiff 1.25 miles. So I don't think the 1.5 miles round here should be that much of a problem. It's flat, it's sharp. I think he'd be fine.
I hope you're right. I think he's got a massive chance. But it's a good race, Augusta Road and King of Steel, etc. What about Inspiral? I thought she was brilliant, actually. I thought Frankie gave her a really no-nonsense ride in the Sun Chariot when she won that day. His 500th winner at Newmarket. And what about the fact that she's going for the filly and mare turf? Is that a concern, the distance?
I don't think so. I think she's much in the same position as Mostadaf is in that sense. I think she'll settle quite well off it's going to be a strong pace around there anyway. And it's a sharp 1.25 miles, and I think she's got the gears to be able to come off that bend and kick. So,
obviously, some people may not know, but you used to ride yourself, and very well.
I did. I'm not sure about that.
I mean, and one of the things people talk about it here as well is that sharp nature of the course. And with your nous, you don't think either horse will be affected by it. If anything, both your contenders would actually appreciate it being a sharp track.
I think so, yeah. I think that's more in their favour than it is against them. I mean, they've both got very good turns of foot. If they're in the right place and they're kicking off that bend, I think they'd be very hard to catch.
Confident about both the Gosden runners, Inspiral and Mostadaf. Michelle?
Thank you so much, Risha. I can't wait to see Mostadaf. But right now, I am so happy to be joined by Aaron Wellman, who is declining phone calls as we speak. Sorry if you're calling Aaron. He is otherwise occupied. Aaron, coming out here with two big chances with juveniles, Locked and Candied. Have you gotten to see either one of them yet?
Yeah, Candied trained at 6:30 this morning. She seemed happy enough. And Locked is on his way out as we speak. He's probably somewhere behind us on this road. So we'll get a good look at him on the track for the first time as well.
Can we go back while we're waiting for Locked to come out and just talk about the weekend that you had winning the Breeders' Futurity and the Alcibiades? The first time any owner in history has done that at Keeneland, by the way, in the same year.
Yeah, I'll never get tired of hearing that. When we started Eclipse 12 years ago, we were pretty bold and ambitious in stating that we started the stable with the intent of making history, and then to be the first owner to do what you just described at Keeneland 3 weeks ago was extremely special and important, and a testament to our partners that put their faith in the Eclipse program. So just really pleased to deliver those results for our deserving partners, and of course, if not for the horses, those accomplishments wouldn't be possible, and Todd and his staff and all the great horsemen and women. So very, very special.
There's Locked right here standing by us. What are your thoughts about it? What brought him to you in the first place?
I mean, as you can see, he's a big, scopy individual, extremely well balanced. But aside from the sheer athleticism that he possesses, once he gets moving, you'll be able to see it. But even just watching him stand in right now, you know, this is his first time here at the Gap at Santa Anita. He traveled 15 hours on Saturday, didn't train yesterday. So you'd think he'd be a little fresh for a 2-year-old. But he's just standing, taking everything in. And really at the sales grounds at Keeneland September, when I was inspecting him, I thought that was a little rare for a colt to have that presence about him and that intelligence. Fillies are typically an easier read for me. I find them a little bit smarter, especially
Me too.
especially at an early age. But, you know, it's rare to find a colt that's so easy on himself. And to be able to have the physical attributes, but then the mental constitution as well, is what I think really allows him to be an elite player.
You mentioned you only started Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners just over a decade ago. You've already had a couple of Breeders' Cup wins. Can you tell me your favorite Breeders' Cup win?
Oh, man. They're all extremely special. You know, sharing one here in 2019, it was our first win here at Santa Anita, which is my home track growing up. And then now my home track is Del Mar, so to win it 2 years ago, the sprint with Aloha West, that was wild, you know, to do it in your own backyard. And it was a really special, just full circle event in both instances, to do it with Graham Motion, with sharing, and then to do it with Wayne Catalano with Aloha West. You know, I mean, it's hard to separate. They're all off the charts important.
All right, we're closing in on Halloween. I won't ask you about a costume, but when you're reaching into the trick-or-treat bag, what's the candy you're pulling out?
I'm hoping for Twix.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a Twix guy.
All right, are you pro or anti-Reese's?
No, I'm pro Reese's, definitely. I won't be upset. That would probably be like 2 or 3 on the draft choice list. But definitely Twix. And, I mean, I think it's only fitting that a filly named Candy wins on the week of Halloween, don't you?
I just thought about that right now. But, yes, I've been thinking about that for weeks. No, yes, I do think that is a great way to end this. So thank you for the time. I'm trying to keep you on your toes, and we'll see if we can come up with more fun questions this week.
I appreciate it. Anytime.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. Aaron Wellman, founder and managing partner of Eclipse Thoroughbreds. And he's going to go out and watch his Grade 1 winner locked. Todd?
I mean, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm right there with him on the Twix, and a Twix is great when you freeze it. I like eating it that way.
Reese is out.
Reese is out? What is wrong with you?
Overrated.
Aaron Wellman is in, and he has developed one of the best partnerships in the country. Had a number of chances to hear his philosophy over the years. He came up the right way, working his way through the business. He gives a lot of credit to the late Cock Campbell and what he did with Dogwood Stable as providing the blueprint for a lot of partnerships. Wish Aaron Wellman well. And looking at Locked, the horse that will go out for Eclipse Thoroughbred and Partners, Walmack Farm. Locked, a winner of the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity, son of Gunrunner, and has been getting better with each start.
No question. And love the running style. Not a speed ball, doesn't have to be up on the front end. The pace is going to be hot here in the juvenile, so it might set up well for Locked, who doesn't need to come from far back and, you know, is versatile. Looks like a horse that Jose Ortiz can really put wherever he wants. I mean, he sat close to the lead. He sat just off the pace in the Breeders' Futurity. Very impressive son of Gunrunner.
Future Stars Friday has so many great races. This race is going to be quite a showdown. The FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile presented by Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. Essentially, every region has their top horse coming here to California. It is not going to be an easy spot. Whoever wins out of here truly is one of the favorites next year for the Kentucky Derby. Cannot wait. What a race. The FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Okay, now the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, looking at a gate road.
Yeah, another Pletcher runner here. This one for St. Elias Stable, Vinny Viola and Mike Rapoli. And, you know, the plan has always been turf here from the get-go. You can see that even though this horse ran on the dirt in start number 1, it was a race taken off the grass. And, again, just, you know, really improved from start to start. And a horse that we're going to need pace to close into. He likes to sit back there and come with a run. But when he won, when he broke his maiden, it's not like they went lightning fast. He closed off a 51 opening half mile. So very good jogging very nicely here.
You know, we talk about top trainers like Bob Baffert with a big barn, and he freely admits turf's not his thing. He'll have the occasional turf winner.
To separate.
But Todd Pletcher, like, he can win in any category, and turf horses have always been a good spot in his barn.
Yes, they have, and sometimes they do. I mean, who knows? This horse might run on the dirt eventually. You never know, but yeah, he's covered all divisions. I mean, Up to the Mark would be a prime example of that later on. You know, his major older turf horse. He's got all the divisions covered here, and horse looks great on the track.
Winner of the Grade 2 Pilgrim last time out. That was off his maiden victory, going a mile and a 16th on the turf at Saratoga. Going to be interesting to see the form out of those races in New York, those big prep races leading to the Breeders' Cup, because as we said, rain was a huge factor there. Some of the races moved, and then when they eventually got on the turf, obviously a turf course that was either good or yielding in most instances, and a Gate Road coming off a very sharp win in the Grade 2 Pilgrim over a good turf course. Moving on to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Again, Future Stars Friday. Looking at the stars you'll see there. Life Talk with the task of trying to take on Tamara. And Life Talk, as far as her credentials coming into this race, taking a look at her out on the track right now.
Well, she ran behind Justin FYI last time in the Frisette, but like we said, it was a sloppy racetrack. Maybe she didn't like it. Her numbers dropped off fairly considerably that day, so she's come back with some good workout Keeneland since then, and here she is on the track today. Pletcher's horses all with that patented white bridle, white head style there that Dwayne Lucas had for so many years, and all of his assistants employ that. Dallas Stewart, Kieran McLaughlin, now retired, Todd Pletcher.
Life Talk, daughter of Gun Runner, out of the Bernardini mare Touchy Feely, and was bred in the Commonwealth of Kentucky by Gun Runner Syndicate Mulholland Springs, and a Keeneland September purchase from last year of $335,000. And as we come to the Breeders' Cup, we start to recognize a lot of the stallions that are represented here, and this name, Gunrunner, keeps coming up over and over and over again. Todd Pletcher with a busy morning here at Santa Anita. Michelle, you with him.
All right, guys, I've tracked down Todd Pletcher, as I was requested to do by Michael McCarthy. So if you're not happy with my stalking, you have him to blame.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm really happy with the office that Michael opened up for us. It was very kind of him. Spruced it up nicely.
He wasn't very happy about it, I have to say.
I heard that. It was very nice of him.
You know, I feel like for you, his mentor and father figure, older brother figure, he's going to be very happy that you get to sit in here and look at your horses, right?
Yeah, no, it's a good spot, so we're happy to be here.
Tell us about your horses that went out this morning already and what your thoughts were.
So far, everything's going smoothly. It's a nice, crisp morning. All the horses shipped in well, feeling good. Good energy, as you'd expect on a crisp morning.
Now, I did have some people on X/Twitter asking about specific horses, and they want to know about Fierceness. So what can you tell me about him?
We kind of still scratching our heads about the Champagne effort. The horse trained sensationally before his debut, ran awesome in his debut, and trained really well up to the Champagne, but didn't run to expectations that day. It's come back and breezed really well since then, so it's a classic case of just having to draw a line through a race and try again.
And I want to talk about Up to the Mark, taking on a big task going into the turf rather than the mile. Were you on the Micropoli bandwagon of he should step up and trip?
Yeah, I mean, he's a horse that's done everything really well. He's won at a mile, mile and an eighth, mile and a quarter. I think you could argue that the Manhattan at a mile and a quarter might have been his most impressive race. So that gives you confidence on this course and firm ground that he'll handle, the extra quarter mile.
I appreciate the time. Thanks for letting us bug you. I'm sure I'll see you again. And can I go see Fierceness? Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, I'm going to go down and we're going to find Fierceness and give him a little nose boop for all you people on Twitter that were asking.
If you watched Up to the Mark and the Coolmore Turf Mile, which you just did on the replay, but if you remember us carrying that race live on FanDuel TV, he left quite an impression. He's on quite a run right now. And if he were to win in the Breeders' Cup, the talk would then turn. There's no doubt he would be a finalist for Horse of the Year, but depending on how it plays out in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, he may wrap it up with a win in the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, the Classic's going to be obviously wide open. But, I mean, what a dramatic change once he got onto the turf course. I mean, this is a horse that was persevered with on the dirt for quite some time, and Todd Pletcher obviously saw talent there. It was just a matter of getting him on the right surface. Then he jumps on the grass, and he pretty much stays undefeated with the exception of one defeat. That was in the Maker's Mark Mile. But a very, very impressive runner. And like you said, anywhere from a mile and a quarter, mile and a half to a mile, from a mile up to a mile and a quarter is his best distance.
The best in the game assembling here at Santa Anita for 2 championship days of racing. Future Stars Friday, and then on Saturday, more championship action highlighted by the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. If you were not with us earlier, you missed one of the biggest stories that we've had during breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, and that is the schooling session for Japanese champion, Dubai World Cup winner, Ushba Tesoro. This is earlier this morning. Now, he goes into the gate, and Simon, he starts to rattle the entire starting gate.
Yeah, you can see him. He goes in there. He's got the rider on, right? I'm watching this for the first time, but now you can see his back end. He is bouncing up and down. That is not a good situation. I mean, this is not what you want to see here in the starting gate. And, I mean, he's just not standing up. What the starting gate crew will try to do there is to try to just lift his tail up a little bit, just to get him to stand down. And again, it might be those ledges in the starting gate that are just touching him. Some of these, you know, international starting gates don't have that situation in there. They're a little tighter, these stalls, than maybe what they have in Japan. So,
but a horse who has traveled over to Dubai and been successful, been in circumstances outside of his native Japan, loading, and has never really had any kind of problem. Now they back him out. The rider is off.
So they got him, they straightened him out there. I mean, he stood there momentarily, pretty quietly after rocking around. But to your point, they back him out and they just want to put him back in one more time. That's what they normally would do. Now look what happens. He's riderless now, and now he's absolutely refusing to go in and pretty adamant about it.
And these are ideal circumstances with where the starting gate is, the fact that he's the only horse there. He's got his entire team around him. If, you know, and we watched earlier with the Godolphin horses, it was routine. They just moved in and out, walked out of the starting gate, and were fine. But Ushba Tesoro, who is one of your favorites for the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, it's just one of those mornings. He's not having it here at the starting gate. Watch him. He won't even go a quarter of the way in before he fiercely backs off.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, it's a nerve-wracking situation for the Connections because, one, you're obviously worried that he won't go in the gate. Two, you just don't want anything to happen to him here in advance of next weekend because I'm sure he'll have to school a couple more times and maybe he'll be fine. But this looks like more like an unraced 2-year-old rather than, you know, a 6-year-old that's making his 31st lifetime start. I think the thing to know, we haven't seen him at the starting gate before, so a little bit of history would be good for that, knowing whether this is routine for him. This is one of the reasons he went to the gate, because he acts like this in the morning and the afternoon. You'd have to find out from the Connections.
We mentioned the team for Ushba Tesoro, the representative for the Japan Racing Association, Kate Hunter. We saw her. She's actually right there, having watched this, and we were able to catch up with her after and find out her view about what took place this morning, the antics by Ushba Tesoro at the schooling session at the gate. Joaquin Jaime with Kate Hunter.
Here with Kate Hunter, who's the representative for Team Japan. And Kate, earlier this morning, we saw the Dubai World Cup winner and Ushba Tesoro schooling at the starting gate. We'll say things didn't seem like it went according to plan. What happened down there when he was schooling at the starting gate for Ushba Tesoro?
Well, all over the world, starting gates seem to be made by various different companies and different styles. And so the way that this starting gate's kind of positioned, it was kind of touching the back of his leg lower than typically he had in Dubai or had in Japan. And so that kind of tickle made him freak out. And so we got him out of there, and he seems absolutely fine. We had the vet look over him. There's no problems at all. However, we will be using one of those nice little cushy mats. For the other Japanese that I had go in earlier this morning as well, we used there's an extra kind of a green mat that kind of comes around and kind of hugs the horse's butt. And we had no problems with that, and that's what we're going to use with Ushba Tesoro going forward as well.
So how much more schooling will he have with that blanket over his hindquarters leading into the Breeders' Cup Classic now?
Oh, it's not a blanket. It's actually like literally a pad mat that's attached to the sides of the back of the starting gate.
Okay.
It's a standard thing that they have at Santa Anita for horses that kind of freak out in the gate.
Okay.
And so it's gonna be a Japanese special this time around because I don't want any mistakes. But we'll go back on Wednesday after he breezes to try again. We didn't want to put him through any more trauma.
Right.
So we're gonna have him breeze, relax a little bit, and we'll take him back out there and put him in the padded stall, and hopefully won't have any more problems.
Okay, we know you're so busy leading into the Breeders' Cup. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the update.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Just, again, can't say enough good things about Kate Hunter and the work she does. That's why Japan is having success over here, what she does year-round. But it's exactly what you thought. The inside of the starting gate, not what he's used to.
Yeah, they're all different. And, that area is very sensitive around the stifle area. In evolution, I don't want to get too technical here, but that's the point where predators for a horse back in the day would attack them to immobilize the horse. You see where the word mile is on the saddle towel?
Yeah.
If you go back there about a foot, right at the top, where the top of that hind leg, that's the area, the stifle area, and it just tickles the horse and rubs them. Joaquin was referencing the blanket, which many use. We've seen that with the Godolphin runners. What Kate is talking about, there's a big, thick pad. The back of the starting stall where the gates close is a V. There's a V at the back, there's a V at the front. And what they'll do, that creates a little room for a horse to rock back. They'll put the pads over that V and down the side of the gate, and it just creates a nice cushion there, which is fine, and he'll probably be fine. But the issue he's got is the memory of not going back into the gate. So you got to get him in before he can feel that the pad is there.
And to repeat what Kate Hunter told us, they're going to try again on Wednesday. So stay tuned on Wednesday here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. We'll see Ushba Tesoro go back to the starting gate. Right now, looking at More Than Lux, preparing for the Breeders' Cup Mile. Andy Biancone right there.
Todd, we're standing by with assistant trainer Adrian DeVoe and More Than Looks. Oh my gosh, Adrian, this horse looked fantastic traveling track. What were your impressions based on his morning gallop?
He looked really good today. I'm really excited for how he's been training. I haven't seen him in a month since he kind of left Saratoga and then won the Jefferson Cup, but he looks like he's just improved every single time he's come out here.
He seems like a very aggressive horse in the mornings.
He is. He's very tough to train on him, on the riders. I'm sorry for his muscles, but he takes one hold. He's just excited to do it.
You also have Stage Raider, and She Feels Pretty here. I mean, of these three horses, do you have a favorite?
I don't know. The two kids, they're kind of More Than Looks and She Feels Pretty. They were up in Saratoga, so they're kind of close to my heart, but Stage Raider's just the dude. So they're all three are kind of fighting for the spot.
And what's your name? Oh, how are your arms? Are your arms okay?
Little tight.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, and vote this weekend. You guys.
And if you were watching on FanDuel TV, our exclusive coverage from Churchill Downs, the Jefferson Cup back on September 30th, it was a breakthrough performance. Andy Serling would tell you of the New York Racing Association that in the Grade 2 Hall of Fame, that was the breakthrough performance. The horse had a tough trip and was third. Andy said it would be easy money in the Jefferson Cup, and he was right. But More Than Looks, is he ready to take on older horses? I thought that last race was awesome.
Very, very impressive, yes. He had trouble. Why? Because of his running style. He's a deep closer, so you always have that issue for the rider navigating a trip through runners. I mean, he just comes from downtown and passes through horses, but he was very, very impressive. I agree with Andy Serling. The Hall of Fame, he had legitimate trouble there, parlayed that into a win with a cleaner trip last out.
And you heard there from Adrian DeVoe and everyone associated with More Than Looks. He is strong in the mornings, eager to do a lot, and he is a horse with a big price in the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile presented by PDJF, a big price and a chance. You have a chance to get some tickets to the Breeders' Cup. Don't miss this Friday and Saturday, 2 championship days. Brandy Harmon and the ticket crew at Breeders' Cup ready to take care of you. BreedersCup.com. So many great spots around here at Santa Anita. So a lot of different price points. If you can be here, you should. Visit BreedersCup.com/tickets.
What's better than one fill? 2 fills.
That was a keen turn of speed.
2 stakes wins at 2.
And it's 2 fills.
2 5.5 Ragozins.
And the son of hard spun.
2 105 buyers, including the Kentucky Derby.
And a passion run by 2 fills.
In the last 15 derbies, no horse has been faster.
This is a serious 3-year-old.
And at 12.5, you'd better book fast. 2 fills, this year's fastest 3-year-old around 2 turns.
You think life is short? Football is short. The regular season's just 18 weeks. That's it. So cherish every over and under before it's over on FanDuel, with live betting on every NFL game. Because before you know it, a cold night at a Buffalo Bills game will just be a cold night in Buffalo.
Bet $5, get $150 bonus if your team wins, plus a profit boost every single day. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Hey, so I found a betting system that's really working great for me.
So did I. What's yours?
I set up an hour-a-week time limit on FanDuel. I can also set up wager limits, so I only bet what I can afford, and betting stays fun.
Right.
So what's your system?
What's that?
Your system. What's your system? What is that?
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours.
As horse racing's greatest take the stage at the Breeders' Cup, we're working to provide an ecosystem of care to keep these athletes safe. With comprehensive veterinary examinations starting weeks before entry, up until they leave the starting gate. With extensive racing, surface testing, and measurement protocols. New national uniform regulation and rigorous enforcement under the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority. And with the addition of advanced technology and new diagnostic tools, we're taking great and positive strides, but we are committed to doing much more. So no matter who wears the crown, safety runs first at the Breeders' Cup. To learn more, visit breederscup.com/safety.
Welcome back here to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. I'm Michelle Yu, and I'm joined by Dr. Ryan Carpenter. And one of the things that we end up doing on the backside is we scope a horse. And I think we use that term a lot, but what is actually scoping the horse mean?
So scoping the horse is taking a long fiber optic scope, which basically has got a camera on the end of it, and we can move it around so we can see what's going on. So the nice thing about this is I can stick this up the horse's nose, get back into their larynx, which is about eye level, and be able to see what their function of their arytenoids are doing. And that's important from a performance standpoint. If a horse is making a noise, they'll often show us an asymmetry or an abnormality. And then we also look for things like exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhage or mucus. Other types of things like that we can treat in order to help make sure the horse is at its peak performance, either following a work or getting ready to go into a race.
All right, we're actually going to get to see him scoping this horse now. So I'm not going to, but Ryan is going to insert the fiber optics tube up the nasal passage. And obviously sometimes this can be a little uncomfortable if anyone's gotten this done at the doctor's office themselves. But you can see right here, what are we looking at?
So what we're looking at here is the throat of the horse. So we'll turn it around so you can see it in proper orientation. So that right there is the arytenoids. Those have to open and close in order for the horse to take a deep breath. And on the bottom of the screen is the epiglottis. So when the horse swallows, the epiglottis covers the trachea or the arytenoids so the food goes into the esophagus. So if you ever cough, when you're drinking water, it's because you get a little bit of water down your trachea, and so that's what the epiglottis does. So what we want to make sure is that the arytenoids are nice and wide open, like this horse is, and that the epiglottis is sitting nice and tight on top of the soft palate so everything's functioning properly. Now that we know that the functions properly, we're just going to go down the trachea and have a look to see if there's anything in the trachea that's abnormal. And so we'll run this all the way down, and we'll look at the lumen of the trachea, and this is a nice clean trachea. There's no evidence of blood, exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhage, or any type of mucus. So this horse has a very normal airway, and everything looks good.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. It was so educational and something that we don't get to see a lot, you guys. So I hope you really enjoyed taking a look inside the horse at what helps them be a magnificent athlete.
Michelle Yu, that was awesome, and thank you to the entire team there, and what a good patient our horse was. It's fascinating to me as well to see, because you've known this has been around for a while,
right,
scoping a horse, but now you can have it on your cell phone.
Yeah, usually the vet's looking through the eyepiece years ago. Now they've got the cell phone, the camera footage you can see, and that was a perfect example. Horses behave very well with the endoscope. It doesn't hurt them at all, but you could see the throat there. When they're talking about those aretinoids, they weren't moving in that situation, but they're two flaps like this, and they open and close as horses breathe, and it lets the air through. Can you imagine? It's called a paralyzed flap. If one is down and only one is working like this, you're only getting 50% of the airway open. So all the biomechanics and the structure of the throat is very key on an endoscope. Then they go down and make sure there's no mucus down there.
This is every day at the racetrack, not just Breeders' Cup time. Top quality care for our athletes. They are at the center of our universe. Let's check in with Rishi.
Yes, Todd, earlier on you were asking about living the dream. Well, I've found the person who exercises the horse, and this is Shoshana Cooksley-Towner. Shoshana, you have been associated with the horse from day one. You know him better than almost anybody else in terms of how he feels. So first of all, how is he, and how is he enjoying life in the States?
He is absolutely loving it here. He quite likes the company, being in the stables, and he gets out on track and wants to do his job and show everyone.
And this morning we saw him going out on the track. Does he feel like he's enjoying what he's doing out there? Does he feel like he's getting better as well? The impression he's given on the racecourse since the middle of the summer suggests that he is.
Yeah, he absolutely loves it. He's taken me on quite well. He's having a bit of a look around at the other horses, because obviously it's different. Normally at home we'll canter in a string, whereas here it's different, but he's definitely coped with it pretty well and getting the hang of it.
Yeah, you talk about the differences between training in Epsom and then training here. There are a lot more horses here. You were saying, from your perspective, you've got to keep your wits about you.
Yeah, you definitely have to look over your shoulder and figure out what everyone else is doing. It's kind of like driving on a highway or motorway. Oh, I've been here too long now. Because obviously the slower horses go on the outside and the faster ones go on the inside. But when you pull up, you go towards the rail. So you have to have a look and then make the move type of thing.
Can I just ask you a bit more about this horse's ability and what he did in the Nunthorpe in particular? We all thought he was a pretty good horse. We all thought he was fast, and we thought he's got the ability to compete at a high level. But not many people thought he could do what he did at York on the Knavesmire in that Group 1 sprint.
Yeah, it was a total shock to me as well. I mean, you always believe that you have a nice horse and the best horse. For me, I was happy to see if he placed, and you know, Highfield Princess was quite on form, and I was just quite happy to see how he'd run with her. But the way he done it, well, you probably saw from the reaction that went everywhere. I was very shocked and speechless myself.
Well, speechless then, shocked, yes. But the good thing is that he followed it up by coming over here to Keeneland. Obviously, you were here as well with him when he made his first American start. I think, all in all, that went pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah, he showed that he's got what it takes with the gate speed with the American horses, and that he's got a fast pace. I think for me and for his owners, that half a furlong is a bit much for him. He likes 5, and that's how he likes it.
How important will the post position draw be?
That's quite hard to worry about, think about, because he's fast out the gates. I mean, we're with some pretty decent horses, the best of the best. I think Steve said about draw 3 to 5. Yeah. I'm not really thinking into it too much, because I don't want to put my nerves up and put it into him or how it affects him.
Assuming it's a level playing field from the gates and the draw, do you think that Living the Dream can win?
I think he could. As I said, I'm not thinking about it. Earlier you said you think that he could win, and I don't want to hear it. I don't want the nerves.
Well, that's fair. And final thing, just so that people will recognise you, because you might be on the road to stardom, you are, fingers crossed, going to get your apprentice licence so you can start riding in the UK later this year?
Yeah, fingers crossed. I've got to get my head down and get my fitness up. Yeah.
And then hopefully we'll see you back here maybe riding yourself for the Breeders' Cup one day.
One day, that's the goal. That would be the goal.
Or the dream.
Or the dream.
Thank you. We can use that line a number of times over the next few days. Living the dream, Shoshana. Hopefully the horse shows his absolute best. Let's head back to the guys.
That is tape we're going to save because she may be back here one day. Excellent question by Rishi, as he always does. But living the dream, we were there at that race at Keeneland, and I was shocked at how fast this horse went. It should benefit him, obviously, now at the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, definitely, as long as he shipped and traveled well here. But he's got, like they said, American gate speed, which you don't usually see very often from the European runners. So he'll be involved early, there's no question. And he's run around a left-hand turn several times, so that's not an issue either.
Regarding that post-position draw, everyone's concerned about in their various divisions of the Breeders' Cup. All the Breeders' Cup post positions will be drawn later this afternoon. Join us for our coverage at 4:30 Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern for the Breeders' Cup post position draw. Joaquin?
Todd, we made our way back to Carla Gaines' barn. She's going to have the California bred closing remarks. She's going to be competing in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf. Here with closing remarks, exercise rider and Yuta Lang. You've been with Carla Gaines for just over 10 years or so. Closing remarks had a breeze here the other day on Saturday. How was that breeze for you?
Oh, it was fantastic. She just enjoyed all around there. Just go around and when we finished, she just stand there act like she win the race or something. You know what I mean? It's just fantastic, yeah.
Is that normal for her when you look at her breezes maybe throughout the year, at Santa Anita earlier this year, at Del Mar during the summer? Does she always do that, or is that something new for her?
No, just that day she's just so enjoyable, you know what I mean? Sometimes she's just a little bit keen to me, but that day she's just floating around there, just feel good, you know what I mean? Yeah, lovely.
From your experience as an exercise rider, when horses have a good morning like that, are they just tipping your hand to you? Or are they telling you that they're sitting on a big race from your experience?
They're really telling you, they're ready or not, and they're not sweat, they're not stressed out, they're just enjoying it, and yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And how are things back at the barn for you and the team? Closing remarks, getting prepared for the Breeders' Cup, Filly Mare Turf. How have things back here been for the team leading into Breeders' Cup week now?
Good team, we have good people running, like Sal right here, everything's good, yeah. And I'm good to be back with her again and get the team done,
Where'd you go?
I went home for vacation, go to Thailand, yeah. Okay. That's beautiful though. But it's good to be back here too.
It'd be beautiful to get a win in the Breeders' Cup and another upset. Appreciate the time, and good luck this Saturday.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right, guys, we'll send it back to you.
I have always said I'm proud of our sport on so many levels, but the diversity in horse racing, there is no other sport that gathers as many people from around the world over this common love for horses as horse racing.
No question. The only issue is the Man United beanie he was wearing. That's too diverse for me.
If that was wondering you.
Way too diverse for me.
We have about 20 minutes left in the show. It is a gorgeous morning once again at Santa Anita. It's going to be gorgeous for the Breeders' Cup this Friday and Saturday. Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup returns right after this.
I'm Mark, and I live in Vero Beach, Florida. My wife and I have 3 children. Ruth Ann and I like to hike. We eat healthy, we exercise. I noticed I wasn't as sharp as I used to be. My wife introduced me to Prevagen. So I said, yeah, I'll try it out. I noticed that I felt sharper. I felt like I was able to respond to things quicker. And I thought, yeah, it works for me.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
At Calumet Farm, we're proud to offer proven stallions to fit every breeder's needs. With over 72 million in progeny winnings on dirt and turf, our diverse roster is producing the champions of today and tomorrow. Calumet Farm, a legacy reborn.
With NetJets, travel will always be personal. We do everything it takes to make every flight exceptional. Every single detail of your experience is personalized, just for you. As our standard is not just to meet our definition of perfection, it's to exceed yours.
City of Light, a multiple Grade 1 winner with $5.6 million in earnings. Winner of the Grade 1 Malibu, the Grade 1 Triple Bend, the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, posting a 110 buyer, and the Grade 1 Pegasus World Cup, posting a 112 buyer. The best son to date of leading stallion Quality Road. City of Light stands to continue his sire's legacy at Lane's End.
Welcome back to the Sportsbook Draft, where FanDuel's pick is in.
With the first pick in the 2023 Sportsbook Draft, FanDuel selects horse racing.
Brilliant pick, as FanDuel becomes the first and only sportsbook app where you can bet on horse racing.
Just a savvy move by a savvy franchise. New customers get a no-sweat bet on the Breeders' Cup up to $200.
It's like they know each other.
What do you think Rob's saying to him right now?
Probably something about oats.
Respect the law. He's earned it. A Grade 1 winning juvenile.
'Tis the law, pops the cork in the champagne.
A classic winning 3-year-old.
'Tis the law is gonna win the first leg of the Triple Crown.
5 triple-digit buyers.
Respect the law, 'tis the law.
The best son of Red Hot Sire Constitution.
He's left the others behind. He's gonna win the Run Happy Travers.
'Tis the law.
By the time we saw Arazi in the 1991 Breeders' Cup Juvenile, we had already seen enough evidence in the Breeders' Cup of Europeans trying to run on dirt to be skeptical. And all week long at Churchill Downs, all the European media was talking about was Arazi this, Arazi that. He's undefeated. He's a superstar. He's going to win the Breeders' Cup. And we just all kind of laughed, right? And then when they broke out of the gates and Arazi drops back to last in a distant last, we were just kind of laughing. Oh, here's the superstar. Here's the big Arazi. Right? He's already 15 lengths back, and they haven't even made it to the backstretch yet.
And Arazi, the European star, is a dozen lengths from the front.
And then suddenly there's this blur running through horses and then running around the outside of horses.
Arazi hits his best stride, and there goes the European star Arazi, and he's coming with a menacing rush to Bertrando.
It was the single most electrifying move I have seen to this day. He was going so fast.
And Arazi runs right by him.
It shocked Tom Durkin, who was calling the race, going so fast. Centrifugal force took him out to the middle of the track. He couldn't even stay in, close to the other horses, and draws off and wins.
Here indeed is a superstar. Arazi, absolutely brilliant. He was taken under a hard hold to win it here by 5, and he could have won by 10 perhaps.
That was a truly memorable moment in the Breeders' Cup.
Absolutely sensational.
In fact, to this day, we still refer to a horse who makes a move like that. They made an Arazi-like move. Earlier, before we were coming on the show, schooling in the paddock, I heard out of the darkness, "Bro!" It was the familiar Patrick Valenzuela. He was exercising horses, and he wanted to remind me he's not won 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. He's won 7 Breeders' Cup races, Arazi amongst them, and Michelle Yu is with him.
Todd Schrupp, earlier on, you mentioned you heard a "Hey, bro," and it came from this man right here, Patrick Valenzuela, back working horses right now. And P-Val, I thought your favorite Breeders' Cup win would have been Arazi, but you said that was too easy.
Yeah, well, honestly, Arazi was one of my favorite horses. Him and Sunday Science was probably my 2 top favorite horses. But my favorite Breeders' Cup win was with Fraze at Gulfstream Park.
Why?
Why? Because, I had to take off a horse that won 5 Grade 1s in a row, Navarone, for Mr. Hibbert and Rodney Rash, God rest his soul, one of the best horsemen I've ever known. And I had a contract with Alan Paulson, and Madeline's horse, Fraze, was going in the Breeders' Cup turf, and Ronnie said, "You can't ride Fraze, you got to ride Navarone." I said, "Ronnie, I got to honor the family contract." He goes, "That's Madeline, not Alan." I go, "I got to honor the contract, you know." So I chose to take Fraze, who's about 30-1, took off Navarone, who's 8-5, who I just won 5 grade 1s in a row on. And by the grace of the good Lord, I was just sitting back there the whole way, mile and a half, just with this big old gazelle-looking horse, and I could see they were running pretty good. They went about 47 for the first half. I know it was a pretty good pace, and just elected to stay back there. Down the backside, there's no rail on the inside rail. There's a hedge, so I kind of squeezed the hedge up a little bit to get through on the inside, around one horse, and I went around another horse going into the turn, and then get back down, and I got behind Navarone, and then Navarone kind of spurred away to the lead, and then here comes Sky Classic with Pat Day on the outside, and then I darted down to the inside, getting to about the 3/16 pole, and Fraze got in his best stride there, and I can remember an announcer going, "And Fraze runs right by him," by Sky Classic, of course, and got the jump on Sky Classic. And, you know, it was a blessing because Alan had promised me if I won all 4 races that day that I'd get the Rolls-Royce Corniche convertible. Yeah. And if I won 3, I would get a Lexus. And if I won 2, I'd get a Ford.
Wait, that's a big step down, I feel like.
Well, it was kind of a step down, but when I won 2, I ended up getting a Lexus.
Oh,
so
that's nice.
Cool. And Alan treated me so good, God rest his soul, and he was so good for the game. I mean, he was such a great ambassador for racing and such a great breeder, and I love going to Brookside Farms in Kentucky and just waking up, because I used to stay in, they had a barn with a loft in the top of it, and he used to let me stay there, and it was, I mean, just riding for Alan and Madeline and for Brookside and the Paulsons was just a treat, you know, and to bring back the memory of Fraze winning that Breeders' Cup turf was just amazing. I mean, I could tell you about Raj. I could probably tell you about every race I rode in my life because my memory's pretty good.
I want to know what your favorite ride was on Sunday Silence.
Come on, that was a Preakness. I mean, come on. Anybody could see that.
I don't know. You're throwing me for loops here.
You're like 2
I don't even.
years old.
I was 7. I was 7. All right. I'm glad you think I look so young. I was 7. What was it like riding him though?
It was unbelievable. I mean, going down the backside, you know. I mean, I was sitting there behind Houston, and then here come Pat on the big red horse, and Pat said that. I think Pat actually might have dropped his Bible at the half-mile pole. That's what Willard Proctor told Charlie when we got back to Santa Anita. We pulled up. I was working a horse for Willard, and we come to the gap, and Willard goes to Charlie, goes, "Hey, Charlie." And Charlie goes, "What's up, Proc?" He goes, "Do you think Pat Day dropped his Bible at the half-mile pole?" And I just started laughing. I mean, it was quite a horse race. You know, we were both competitive and both trying to win the race, and you know, Pat's doing his best to win the race on the red horse, and I'm doing my best to win on this black son of a gun that could run lights out to anybody. And I was blessed that day to have God on my side and just to have a better horse. I think Sunday Science, he's proving it in the breeding shed. Look at his grandchildren. Mm-hmm. I mean, he just turned the Japanese racing industry upside down. I mean, the Japanese to buy Sunday Silence, take him there and do what they've done with him is just an amazing thing. And to be part of that history in life is just amazing. I mean, probably one of the best Preaknesses ever run was that one. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, like I said, we're coming to the half-mile pole. I'm on Sunday Silence following Houston, and here come Pat on the big red horse, and he is quite a bit bigger than my horse at that time. I mean, the horses are thicker, bigger, and Pat kind of, he floated me down behind Houston's hill. Pat said that Houston came out. Houston didn't come out. Houston was already there, and Pat kind of he took advantage of it, which I would have too if I was in his spot, you know. And I kind of had to put a little check on Sunday, and Pat went on with his horse. And when I threw across again and asked Sunday to pick it up, it was like asking a cat to get that mouse in the corner, you know. He was right on top of him and getting to the quarter pole. I mean, I put him on top of that rail, and I didn't give him an inch to ride, you know. I mean, you could see the last 16, Pat's trying to pull his horse out to try to initiate some kind of bumping to try to get some kind of, I don't know, some kind of something going. I don't know, but I was too busy riding and trying to win the race. So, you know, by the grace of the good Lord, we came up winners that day.
Okay, we're talking about coming up winners. If someone was going to call you off the bench right now to ride a horse in the Breeders' Cup, who do you wish it would be?
White Barrio.
Woo! Oh, you heard it here, you guys. White Barrio is who P-Val would love to get on.
I'll give you a reason for that, because his trainer I love, he's a great horseman, and I welcome him back. Richard Dutrow, you're going to do wonderful things. God bless you.
Appreciate the time, P-Val.
Thank you.
Guys, it was a nice walk down memory lane.
Patrick Valenzuela, yeah, he seems ever present, but where he is not is in the Hall of Fame, and that's a discussion that comes up a lot. His professional riding days in the afternoon are over. He's still present at the track, but he tells anyone who will listen, why am I not in the Hall of Fame? Should he be?
Off his record, he probably should. I mean, if you're not familiar with him, yeah, some well-publicized issues away from the racetrack, which is saddening of itself, because his resume, I mean, he might have spent more days on the sidelines than he did riding at some point, and it could have been so much better. Very, very talented, sharp as a tack, you can see that. And he never hesitated. White Barrio. I mean, who would you ride? Boom.
I'm hearing more and more of that. Yeah, and if you saw the workout the other day, the final quarter mile in 22 and 4, White Barrio is sitting on a go. We're going to go to a short timeout. We'll be back with the conclusion to this edition of Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup right after this.
Disarm takes the Met win.
Antiva, they win the Bet Parks Pennsylvania Derbies.
Wicked Halo, who wins the Raven Run Stakes.
Nobody catching Society.
Red Route 1.
Cyber Knight has won the Pascal over Teva and Gunna in the Forgo.
Echo Zulu wins the NetJets Breeders' Cup Juvenile Derbies.
FanDuel Casino has your chance at the #1 feeling, winning. Winning ranks higher than any other feeling, higher than number 30. Saying, I told you so.
Told you so.
Higher than number 89, the feeling of catching your car keys with one hand. And number 78, thinking it's Friday when it's really Saturday. New players get 50 chances at winning with their first deposit on FanDuel Casino.
Hey there, it's Craig Carden. I know I can't believe it either, but the World Series is officially here. So if you're choosing to make a wager on the series this year, please be sure to do so responsibly. Gambling should always be fun, social, and entertaining. If at any time you reach a point where it's not all three, take a break, take a breath. Go to FanDuel.com/playwell. Go there right now. Run. Go there and learn more.
A Grade 1 winner of nearly $2 million, Silver State hails from the sire line of legendary Claiborne stallion Danzig. And his second dam is full sister to Kentucky Derby winner Monarchos. After winning the Oaklawn Handicap, Silver State defeated Knicks Go in the Grade 1 Metropolitan Handicap. Now his first foals have arrived. Grade 1 winner Silver State, standing at Claiborne Farm.
My favorite Breeders' Cup race that I ever called? Not even close. The 2015 Breeders' Cup Classic, won by American Pharoah. I was with him the whole year. Had a chance to call the first Triple Crown winner in 37 years. And this was the last race of his career. He took the lead right away and pulled away from the older horses and dominated the Breeders' Cup Classic. And as they came to the wire, I remember I was able to say the words that I wanted to. A Triple Crown winner, a Breeders' Cup winner, a horse of a lifetime. And when the race was over, I just remember one other thing. With all the emotion of the moment, yep, I cried like a baby like everybody else.
Larry Colmus, he was working with us on FanDuel TV yesterday, and then now he's going to focus on what he's got to do for NBC. You know, it's one thing to gear up for the Kentucky Derby, and you know everyone's listening, but you only have essentially 20 horses to look at, which is still a lot. I can't imagine the pressure that he goes under, all those Breeders' Cup races, and trying to recognize some horses that he's seeing for the first time.
14 Kentucky Derbies, right? I mean, I know some of the fields are a little shorter, but the preparation gets his note cards. If you follow him on X or on Twitter, yeah, he has his note cards, and he'll have one for each race, learning the silks, the color of the silks, and Big week for Larry coming up.
It has been a remarkable week and a concerning one with a lot of breaking news in the Breeders' Cup Classic division. Obviously, you saw the situation with Go Rocket Ride, him being out now. We saw Ushba Tesoro, the situation at the starting gate, but it looks like they're going to work that out. And now Archangelo, this may be a developing story. He was supposed to come out and train this morning. He did not. And it was Joaquin Jaime who reported there was an incident where he had kicked the stall. They had to replace a shoe. We showed you video from a couple of days ago when he was out on the racetrack, but it was assumed, and Jenna Antonucci had told this to Joaquin Jaime, they had some time to work things out leading to the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, so they were hoping to be out working this morning. That did not happen. So that is a story we're going to follow here in Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Stay tuned for it. Simon, as far as Arabian Knight, everything has gone smoothly for him leading into the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. We saw his work earlier today.
Smooth as silk here this morning. Great workhorse. Gary Young, clocker, who was involved in the purchase of Arabian Knight, has been very high on this horse, working the way he's working since the Pacific Classic. I keep mentioning about how he has been pointed to this race out of the FanDuel Pacific Classic. It was a key move by Bob Baffert. Long layoff. The layoff's not going to be an issue. He is absolutely working like a really good horse here. Is he good enough against this group with, some defections we've had this week with Go Rocket Ride? Archangelo, that's not a great situation. Day number 2 with him not being on the track this morning. I think, that helps his chances, certainly. And the way he runs, he's just going to, go to the lead and try and do a Medina Spirit in the Kentucky Derby, take the gate to wire.
Half mile, 47-1, but look at how he finishes out here. We did catch him on the gallop out, 5 furlongs in 59. And as you said at the beginning of the week, Simon, watch some of the action after the wire of these workouts as they finish up strong. Before we finish up here, a reminder of the post position draw. It's taking place at 4:30 Pacific time, the Pasadena Civic Auditorium. Mike Joyce will be there on site. Andy Biancone, part of our coverage. Simon and I will be here on the set at Santa Anita, set you up, and then send it to the Pasadena Civic Auditorium and have our reaction afterward. It has been another eventful morning at Santa Anita. Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, taking you inside all of the action here with 2 championship days of racing ahead. Be careful there, Michelle Yu. A lot of preparation continues for the 40th edition of Racing's Championship Day. We took you on horseback, watching the horses up close with Andy Biancone, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow. Michelle Yu getting in all her steps. And how about Joe Chile? He's got to reach for the asthma medicine. All right, we'll be back tomorrow.